You are listening to the Savage FINcast, episode 96, Einstein's sister's biggest fan, an interview with Erik Larsen.
Chicago. A criminal mastermind called Overlord held our city in his terrifying grip. Ordinary cops were losing the battle against Overlord's super freaks and mutants. Then, a miracle happened. When I found him, he had no memory of his past. I helped him find an identity and a life. Now we have a fighting chance. Now we have the dragon.
This is the Savage FINcast, the show think about getting into some AMSR. My name is Jim Purcell.
I'm Craig Olson.
I'm Raven Perez.
And we are here with a very special episode. We are going to be talking to the one and only Erik Larsen about the last, several issues, but primarily what it all took to get issue 250 off the ground, and of course all the craziness that we see in the follow-up issue 251, which was in my opinion almost a better issue because of how insane it was.
Okay.
Right out the door with the hot takes.
All right.
I actually like 249. I want to start with that. Can we start with 249? Pick Eric's brain on 249?
Take it away, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's chronologically makes sense.
Where did that come from, Eric? It seems like you're jumping back to the 90s, which is freaking incredibly awesome. I loved the traditional panels that, we've seen since almost, I feel like, issue, 101? Or no, actually probably like in the 70s, right, with the Savage World. And now it feels like we saw 249, which I think a lot had to do with some of the self-swipes you were taking, but it entered into 250 and I believe 251 with a lot of these kind of 90-ish panels, which I didn't realize I missed so much. Like, they're so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Robert Kirkman saying, how come you don't do that stuff anymore? And it's like, all right, try that out, see how that goes, see how I like it. It's been a while since I did that. Also, it's something I didn't really do with Dragon proper, because it always seemed a little bouncy for Savage Dragon for me. And so while it was something that seemed appropriate for Spider-Man, Savage Dragon was, at least initially, kind of a straighter book, more Frank Miller Daredevil than Spider-Man, I think.
That makes sense.
So it's just kind of the approach. And then it just seems like, well, Malcolm's not as. It seems like it works all right with Malcolm because he's younger and kind of goofier and more fun. So it's like, all right, let me just do that. Try this out. I did it for 249, and it's like, all right, I guess this will work.
Well, why did you end up picking the pages that you did? Just composition? They just worked?
Yeah, kind of wanted to. I think part of it was just kind of getting in that mode. Was just, sometimes it's good to just get those muscle memory things going by kind of emulating something that you've seen before, done before, or whatever. And just like, if they were sitting there trying to draw like Jack Kirby, it's like, all right, let me ink a Jack Kirby drawing before I do this. And then it's like, all right, I'm feeling it. Let me go.
Well, I definitely remember seeing more panels like that in 151. So if that's what it took to get the cobwebs out, I think it worked out great.
Yeah.
And for the listeners, I mean, we're talking 249 where you kind of self-swiped a lot of your adjectiveless Spider-Man issues. I think the Beast one in particular.
Yeah, the Beast one, I swiped 5 pages out of that issue, and then there was a couple more from Amazing Spider-Man.
Yep.
Then I swiped some things from Savage Dragon stuff too, just because it was like, oh wow, I'm at it.
One of my favorite pages is the dart kick to the Kingpin character, which I totally remembered seeing that before because it's such an awesome pose. And one thing I enjoy is I feel like you always come up with fresh new poses, and I remember that original one, and it just blew my mind. It was like such a cool shot, and I'm just pretty stoked that you reused that one. I love how it's framed up.
Yeah, I like that one myself.
So one part of that issue I really enjoyed was the flashback to the Dimension X stuff. So you did that just to kind of reestablish Mark and what's his name?
Yeah, just because I didn't even really realize it when I had set things up previously, but then I was like, oh yeah, this is the same group that was in Dimension X together. Maybe I should mention that.
Oh, yeah. Well, you didn't realize that when you got them together?
Yeah, when I got them together, that wasn't initially what I was thinking.
Oh,
and then it was like, oh, wait a minute.
Because that was the thing I've been waiting for 20
So
years.
it's like, oh, I should totally do that.
Yeah, we were stoked. We thought it was like a master. I was like, oh, the gang's all here.
There they are.
I mean, because as readers, we forget that this crew has been together for a pretty long time, surviving Dimension X. So there's a lot of stories that we never read or heard about, but they've gone through a lot together, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and that material is always there, especially if I want to shoehorn in some, hey, remember when we met this dude? Now this dude just crawled out of Dimension X, and so there's stuff that can be done and can be played with there.
I fucking love that kind of thing.
So I remember, reading this and reading solicitations, and we all thought for sure that 250 was going to be the big showdown with Vicious Circle, and it seemed probably that's the way you were heading before COVID hit. I mean, was that a last-minute change, and did you have 250 kind of all in your head before?
I mean, really, it was going to be just the fight scene in that was in 249. It was going to be extended out into 250, and then I would have had the Freak Force guys show up and maybe some SOS guys. And it would just been a big clusterfuck with a bunch of characters. And then kind of a couple things occurred. But one was it was clear that 250, that sales were going to get a decent sized bump.
Well, I'll say you did.
And the concern there was that there was going to be a bunch of people who are going to be reading it for the first time or for the first time in a while, and that if I'm just starting in the middle of a long story, then it could just be like I'm completely confused. I don't know what's going on here at all, and you lost me. So it was still going to have the same last page regardless.
Wow.
Because that was just where I was going and what I wanted to get to. But just having it be a who's who of characters that have appeared in the book all showing up to just be in a big old fight, it didn't seem like it was going to work. Also, that just wasn't enough of a motivational thing for that whole thing, so it felt a little empty to me. So I just decided, let's just wrap this up and get on to some other stuff.
Cool. I do have to say, I mentioned it, or sorry. So 250 sold out, as I heard.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's fucking awesome
for a $10 book.
It's cool, yeah.
When's the last issue that kind of sold out at that level, went into a second printing? I mean, it's
Probably the Barack Obama issues.
yeah, well, that was insane. The number of
Because both of those, both the one where he said where he endorsed him, and the one where when he had actually been president, both of those sold out. The endorsed one had 4 printings.
Whoa!
wow.
So yeah, that was decent. And this won't have that, I don't think, unless it goes crazy. And even so, it's like this is an expensive book to go back to press on,
Right?
Because it's square bound.
Yeah.
It just adds an extra level.
Well, I think just it's hard to compare to a regular priced book versus a $10 book, and selling out a $10 book is pretty insane too.
Yeah.
But the second printing is going to have the 100 big pages, like old school, like logo stuff on the main cover. That's the difference, right?
Yeah,
the old trade dress.
That's it. I mean,
Different color.
I didn't want to do like, hey, here's yet another crazy different cover that you guys need to buy that. I don't know. It's always a wrestling match as to what should I do? What's appropriate? What's inappropriate? I don't like the idea of people feeling like they have to buy yet another version of it.
Right.
I gotta say, I am surprised by the reaction to a lot of the variant covers on this issue, just because everyone seems to want all of them, which is something I never was into, variant covers like that. It just, so many people just seem they want all of them, even the hardest one to find.
Gotta have all of them.
Well, I know with myself, I've never on a book that's had like multiple covers. I don't think I've ever gone and bought all of them. I may have been like, well, I like this one and this one, so I want to have those. But like Detective 1000 and Marvel Comics 1000 and Action 1000, all of those is like, if I want the book at all, I'll just get the cover that's either either the only one my store carries or whatever the case may be. I was going to a store for a while there in San Francisco that just didn't play the alternate covers game at all.
Right.
And they were just like, we just get one cover and that's it. So we just pick the one we want, and that's it. That's the one that's in our store, and period. Because it's just they don't sell any comics in their store for more than cover price. They don't have back issues to speak of other than trade paperbacks and stuff like that. But they just weren't playing the whole collector's game. So it's like,
what is this integrity I'm hearing? That's so weird.
Well, it's pretty different.
It seems like they're trying to avoid the headache, because it sounds like it can be a headache.
Yeah, it can be a headache, and especially if you start going with, if you got 10 of these, then you can order one of these, and then if you get 20, then it's like, good God.
Yeah.
Because there's stores that are just trying to get to those points so they can get that one book, so they can sell it for an inflated price and cover how much they've invested in. So, come on.
I think that's crazy, but I do think, if you have a customer that wants it, I see no problem like ordering that for the customer's needs. But when you're just ordering it to throw on the shelf and to get that special variant, well, if the customer wants to order 10 to get the special variant, let the customer do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's only if it's easy to if there's just an order code. But like Eric said, some of them you got to buy 10 copies to get one. It's Chase variant. It's just a massive pain.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, I feel like with Savage Dragon, it's a little bit of a different kind of thing where at least I feel like with the people ordering all the covers is, hey, I feel like, Eric, you don't ever really soak us on variants and stuff. And when you do it, it's for most of yours, it's like one or two variants. and I feel like 250 was such a celebration that we're pretty. I know most of you I talk to are pretty stoked just to see different artists' take on the character on the cover, and it's fun.
Occasionally, I'll do some where I just do a variant that's for a convention too. I've done that a couple times along the way where it's like, oh, let me just crank out a crazy one for this one.
What was the story behind the Otley cover, which was solicited a little bit later than the other covers? That was a convention sketch, right? That
was a convention sketch. Yeah, I had done that at a convention. I penciled it, and then he inked it, and then somebody owns it and was like, "Hey, if you ever want to run this as a pinup, do this." And when is it Atomic Comics did that green cover? They had contacted me about doing a couple different covers for them. And they were like, well, we want to do a green one. And then we also want to get our guy to do a cover. And they just had some random guy. Well, I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you his name. He was just some guy who does painterly kind of covers. And I was like, I don't know this dude. Why am I having him do a cover for this issue? And then I thought, I've got this thing that I did with Otley. Why don't I mock that up, and maybe you could do that cover? And so I just sent them that, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll just do the green cover." And it's like, all right, well, I've got this thing all mocked up now as a cover. Let me just add that to the heap.
Wow.
Call it a day. So I just wanted to see it as a cover once I'd had it put together.
Yeah, it's a fun cover. I love the striking red background and of course the foreshortening, which I think Otley always jumps at a chance to ink or work on some of your foreshortening pieces. I know he's done it before with Invincible, which was a cool cover. It was a cover, right? The Invincible one, isn't that a variant? That
also was drawn at a convention. Although he didn't ink it at the convention, but I did. Kirkman had me do it as a commission piece, and then I didn't know he was going to have it inked and turned into a cover. But it's like, oh, whatever.
You bring up a good point though about someone that you don't know drawing a cover. I feel like, and maybe you can speak a little to this, like almost the recent events with Jay Lee kind of drawing a cover for one of the Comics Gates books, and he didn't really know. It seems like he didn't know he was doing it for that, and the backlash that he got that seemed pretty unfair. So you almost have to vet everything you do and make sure you know who you're dealing with.
I mean, because people contact me all the time going, I'm doing an alternate press book. Do you want to do a cover for it? And if I had an inkling to do such a thing and I just jumped at it and said, sure, I'll do a cover. I like doing covers. Would I think, oh, wait a minute, this guy might be evil?
Yeah.
It's true.
Maybe I shouldn't do that.
It can be career suicide these days.
Yeah, I guess. So, oh well.
Yeah. I definitely feel like with something with like a Kickstarter or something, like I see something interesting, I'm like, maybe I need to look into this a little more now before I can just hand over my money.
Yeah,
it's a weird time.
It is a weird time.
So I want to ask about the Deadly Duo trilogy in 250. I'm kind of curious how that came about, because I really loved how you kept reiterating on the same concept with just different characters. I thought that was brilliant.
Well, thanks. Well, that one was one where a lot of times when I'm having guys do backups, they don't always do them. I've had a few people who just kind of said, hey, I want to do something, and then they never got their act together and actually do it. So that was a case where there were mostly guys that I hadn't worked with much before, So I was a little like, well, am I going to send this out and then have it not get done? So I had written the first one, and then somebody else had contacted me, and I was like, well, I've had this guy crap out before, so I can't count on him, but if he does it, it could be kind of funny if there was two of these. And then somebody else had contacted me, and it was like, it would be hilarious as if there was three of these. At that point, it was like, and then they all came through, and it was like, oh, this is awesome, because then it becomes this cool running gag. And because they're all re-scripted, it's not like it's the same stuff being said over and over and over again, except for Kill Cat's opening line, which is the same in every one.
So you gave
which it is also Wolverine's first line that he ever says. That's where that's from.
Oh,
that's great. I didn't even catch that. Do you just give him layouts, or do you just give him like a script?
I give him a plot.
Okay.
So it's fairly open, but it'll be, page 1, this happens, and some generally rough dialogue or rough ideas where things are. And
that's what makes it so cool, is you get to see 3 different artists' interpretation of roughly the same story.
Yeah.
In completely different ways.
Their approaches can be very, very different. And in this case, they really were. Which was, I thought it was a neat kind of thing to just go, oh, look at this. These guys all approach it really, really differently.
I enjoyed all of the art styles, and I'm just wondering, where do you find these guys? Are these guys fans that contact you, or you've worked with them, or they've given you samples? Like, how do you find these guys?
They contact me pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
People will show me stuff, and when it's somebody's showing me some new stuff, I'll say, hey, would you consider doing something in here? And when they're game, it works out, and when they're not so much. But I've written a bunch of plots for people who have just vanished too. So occasionally, if enough time has passed by, I'll send it on to somebody else, and it'll get drawn by a different person later on down the road. That happened with that Daredevil Super Patriot story that had the time traveler thing. That story would have been much more timely had the original artist who I wrote it for delivered.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So, oh well.
I thought it was cool that the Deadly Duo got so much screen time, especially in an anniversary issue, because one of the things I don't think you get enough credit for is how funny Savage Dragon is.
Yeah.
And, this shit was a fucking riot the whole time. And
that was fun.
I told Craig and Jim, I think you wrote the only good pronoun joke I've ever heard in my life. Usually those are just shitty, but that double page pronoun joke, oh, beautiful, so funny.
I think Deadly Duo 2 works perfectly in 5-page spurts, where it's it's just enough pages, it's funny as hell, there's the punchline and everything, and it's just a perfect format to tell their stories.
Yeah, they are good for that. They're good, and that and Carl Kosnick is also one. It's if this guy had his own book, I think it would wear itself out. But somebody being an idiot and then going away, it's okay. Beautiful.
Another cool thing you did was, I remember back a few months ago, you were talking about coloring the first Paul Dragon story.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine now you did that because you wanted this story in this book because you were bringing Paul Dragon back.
Yeah.
So it was like an introduction thing. That was very sly. I want to congratulate you on that.
Yeah, we never saw it coming. I was just like, God damn it! But there it was.
Yeah, that was kind of neat. It was kind of fun to play around with that. And he wasn't called Paul Dragon in Graphic Fantasy 1. He was never referred to that. He was just the dragon in that one. And for some reason in the second one, when he had a girlfriend, it seemed like she should be calling him some regular person name. And so in my mind, it was like she named him Paul or somebody knew, you know. But it was that rather than him going, I think I need a first name, damn it. But we'll get to that when we get to it, if we get to it.
Yeah. I'm wondering if I'm not asking. I'm more just wondering if you're going to get more into like Paul's backstory now that he's in the book, because I'm really interested in stuff about Paul and his history that we never saw.
There'll be stuff there. I'm really debating with myself as how close to stick with what I did when I was a little kid. Part of the problem is that all that stuff was really, really early on, and I was really, really young. And so Paul Dragon should really be like 70 years old.
Right.
or older, really, because he was an adult back then. You know?
Like 84. What was it, 82 or 84?
Well, Graphic Fantasy was 82.
Okay.
But prior to that, in that Graphic Fantasy story, he was already far along in his career. He had already been part of the SOS, and he had already resigned from that. So he had a fairly decent career prior to Graphic Fantasy 1. And if I really went back into, kid shit, then it becomes like, all right, I guess he starts in 72. But then it's like, well, how old is he in 1972? And if you go, okay, well, let's say he's 20 in 72, that still makes him like...
Well, I keep thinking about that panel with Star on the phone, and you see Paul in the photograph in the
William.
William on the phone, and he's got the Paul on the wall in the Flash Mercury costume.
Yeah, there's so many knockouts in that story. It's sort of an odd thing for that particular framed picture to be in full color.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was really like, I want to establish that he had
partners
costume at one point and that these guys were partners. But then it becomes like, so is he running around looking to find Star, and Star is his old partner, but Star is a Caucasian in this flashback story. So is there another guy conveniently, is who the hell is this guy, and what's this all about, and do these relationships change and stuff like that. I've also got the Megaton issues, which Reagan's the president in the Megaton stories, so that puts a definite timestamp on when those happen. So it's like, where do I put these? How do I put these? How does it work? Does it work in any way? How much do I try to make this shit work?
I think it's very cool, and I think it's very clever. So whatever you choose, I think it's going to be great.
Thanks. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to go exactly with that sort of. I think I'll probably go that he came to Earth around the same time that our dragon came to Earth, and keep them roughly the same age, so we don't have one dragon who's 10 years old and another and stuff like that.
in your childhood comics, was he an alien that merged with William Johnson? Is that how it worked? I mean, because at one point he looked human, right? So
in the original comics, William turned into this other guy, and then Fonte ripped him into two different people. But I never did the alien origin story.
Oh, so Star in this isn't William. William is the guy in the Flash Mercury costume.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
He also has William's hair.
Yeah, Star is. See, when we started over at Image, when I started at Image Comics, that's when I decided, Chris Robinson, that could be a black guy.
yeah,
In the original comics, he was a white guy, but he was still named Chris Robinson.
Oh, okay.
But having it be that there is another guy named Chris Robinson is like, well, that seems kind of fucking weird at this point, you know. So I'm not 100% sure how I'm gonna deal with this.
it's amazing to me you have all this backstory dragon stuff that maybe only you and maybe a handful of your friends have probably ever seen, and it's all in your head now.
It's all there, and none of it's. I mean, and I don't have any of those comics anymore because my house burned down, so I don't have access to any of that. The only thing that's real is I've got these two graphic fantasy stories, both of which have now been colored and reprinted. The first one has a coloring mistake in it, but whatever. I can't.
And for the general public, those issues came out, and it seemed like there was already 10 years of history. When you read those, it's like, man, this sounds like this thing's been going on for quite a while, because it actually has. It just wasn't available to the public.
Yeah. It wasn't available to the public, and then I worked those stories into continuity. Those are issues, whatever, is 63 and 65.
Right.
So
yeah, I did go back and compare them. It's pretty cool how similar they are, like down to the layouts and.
Yeah, pretty close. I mean, there was some cases where I had to swap in Barbaric for Mako and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
it's like, okay, do what we can here.
Paul was definitely. Oh, sorry, Craig. Go ahead.
No, you got it.
Well, I was just going to say, Paul was definitely the way more interesting choice for the Return of Dragon, just because I think Paul has all those questions, all those, like the minute I saw Paul, my fucking mind was racing 1,000,000 miles a minute. I was like, dude, like, what happens if he gets, like, a blood transfusion? Like, is he got any kind of chosen one aspects? Like, your mind's a blank slate. If it was just Dragon at the end of 250, I honestly wouldn't have been anywhere near as hyped.
Well, I think too, is you go, if it's Dragon, then you go, oh, that fucker.
Yeah.
It's just, bringing a character back from the dead. Here we go again.
Yeah.
It's just, it's such a cheat that everybody does. And there's also places I can go with it that conceivably could be pretty interesting, and I'll try some of those out and see how that works.
I think it's pretty awesome too, just the fact that he looks visually different with the small fin. So even if he looked the same and you said, oh, this is Paul Dragon, but just giving him the small fin, yes, it's Dragon, but you can tell, it's a different character, and it looks different, and it doesn't feel like a cop out or anything, like you said, like bringing someone back.
It doesn't change Dragon's fate, I guess, is what makes it kind of cool.
Yeah,
that's what's great.
Yeah, I like that. And then there's places I can go with it, and also it can give the kids a grandpa, which I kind of liked that they would have a grandpa figure, whether or not he's around forever. I don't know, but we'll cross that road when we come to it.
I remember you saying that, years ago, that you were thinking like, you could be that mentor role, and so it almost
I was gonna
seems
say
like
he
you get to
tricked
do
us.
that a little bit.
You tricked us with that mentor dragon talk. We knew. So we got our guards up now.
There's always so many different possibilities. So,
Who are the first people that you shared that page with, and what were their reactions on that?
Gavin always sees that stuff, but I talk with him about various, thinking of going this way, thinking of going that way. Erik Stevenson was trying to talk me into just bringing back regular Dragon.
Boo that man!
Boo that man, indeed.
Boo Erik Stevenson!
Coward Erik Stevenson.
So, a couple other people.
Even when you showed him Paul, he was saying, "Nah, I think you should bring back the regular image dragon." I feel like you get the best of both worlds with this.
Yeah, me too. I feel like it is best of both worlds because you get those dragon feels off of Paul, but Paul's
He's
whole
got
new
the
world.
memories. Yeah,
and he's got access to it, but it's not. It's just like remembering a vivid dream. Like, I kind of remember this stuff, but it's not primary memory.
But it also works for the villains, like, skipping to 251, where Mind Warp shows up, and he knows who Mind Warp is, and Mind Warp's like, out to get him. I mean, they still have a lot of hatred for Dragon, so it's still fun, that you can do that.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think it opens up the door for you to do crazy shit like Bronze Man or something like that we would never even see. Whereas if this was just regular ass Dragon coming back, you couldn't have those options. So I think it's way better.
Yeah, there's some interesting things. I'm curious where I'm going to go with it because I don't know yet.
Yeah, there's other guys that could have followed him into Dimension X.
Absolutely.
Or people who got memories from Paul's universe.
Yeah.
And have them kicking around in their head.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a bit of that. There's some characters that haven't yet appeared that he's going to go on something of a quest to just see who's still there and who he remembers and
that's a good segue to get into 251, because right off the bat we see Paul trying to connect with Malcolm, and then asking where Mark and Peter and Angel are. So he is definitely out there trying to make those connections.
Yeah, and Mark and Peter were his actual sons in the old comics. Actually, Angel was his biological daughter in my old comics.
And so she'll probably have those memories, right? Or at least a little inkling of them, right?
Not the same person.
I don't know that she would.
Because she's kind of a different person.
She is, because she's not his biological daughter, she's going to be different.
Although, this is just me spitballing here, they are echoes of each other. I mean, they fill a similar role, so maybe that's enough to have a connection.
Very much so. But I would think that if he was looking at her face, he wouldn't go, "You're that person."
Right.
No, because he's not. I mean, everybody has a similar kind of look in comics anyway, and filtered through my art style, they're going to look physically somewhat like each other. But, if you were casting them in a movie, they'd be played by different actresses.
It's like if you made out with your dead wife's twin sister, you'd know it was wrong.
Okay.
You'd know it was wrong. You'd know.
When you wrote that first bit of dialogue on that first page, man, you got the fin wrong. It's amazing.
Perfect.
251 issues later, he finally made it into the comic. He calls it a little turd on his head.
Yeah. Which is, it's always been this pain in the ass thing to draw too, and trying to communicate to like, no, you see, it's cylindrical, but then it gets flat right towards the front, and it's like,
yeah, it's like a ridge. It is weird because if you see it straight on, it looks like a ridge, but when you look on it like side on, it kind of looks like it's flipped over. But I understand that it's a ridge.
Yeah, the fin worked out better, but
I bet people fuck that fin up like crazy.
More than the
way
regular
more.
fin.
Yeah, way more.
yeah, they both get screwed up all the time. So
90 degrees to the forehead. Come on,
guys, not even close. It's like I think it's such a simple design of it's just a bald dude with a fin on his head that people just kind of assume, oh, I got this. I don't even need to open up a comic. And so they don't. And then it's like, yeah, actually not that close.
Or they think it's just because it's like they embellish it because it's his most distinctive feature.
Yeah.
So they're kind of putting themselves into the fin. I think that's mostly why we see different fins.
This is my version, man.
Yeah.
Look how big it is.
Look how tall my dragon is.
It's like Batman's ears.
Bray Fogel him straight off the panel.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you the number of people I've heard say like dumb shit like, well, I mean, I put some scales on him. And I'm like, dude, he's not a dragon. Like, goddamn, he's not a literal dragon. Like, that's a nickname, dude.
He doesn't breathe fire. He doesn't hoard gold.
Yeah.
You know that if there ever is a dragon movie that the studio he's going to end up with scales on him. You know it. That the studio is just going to be, I'm not going to get that much approval that I'm going to be able to, control that at the other end and just be like, God damn it. That's why I want this fucking movie.
I mean, his fin's more like, well, I guess dragons have fins, but it's always struck me as like more aquatic than dragon.
We're going to give him a forked tongue and make him breathe fire.
Exactly, a forked tongue. And like the vertical iris or pupil.
Yeah.
Crazy eyes. Yeah.
And Overlord, he'll be like a knight with a sword. It'll be great.
Yeah. Be so cool.
This dragon's gonna save the princess.
Did you see? I saw. I won't say quite a few, but a handful of people with 250 that actually thought that the graphic fantasy backup was a new backup, and you were actually just drawing in a retro style.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I saw maybe 2, maybe 3 people on Twitter that were like, "Well, that was interesting. I liked what you did there." And I think part of it is that there's nothing saying it's a reprint or what year it's from or anything like that. So if you're new to the book, you're thinking that, I could see how some people just thought you were just going for like a retro.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
It's pretty cool when you think about it.
I fooled you.
When we were doing the FINcast, I was telling Craig and Jim I'm surprised how well, like, as old as that shit is, it's crazy how well it still holds up. Like, how do you personally feel? Like, I can't stand looking at my old art. Like, how do you feel looking at that stuff?
Oh, I'm not a fan.
You did the colors yourself, right? So
many lines of dialogue in here that I'm just like, oh, God. Do I really just have to grin and bear it for this? I did do some... There's some spelling corrections that were made, so it's not exactly graphic fantasy. And
wow.
And when I'm scanning in these shitty black and white comics, I had to, it's like I got to fix some of the lines were breaking up and stuff like that. So there's a lot of Photoshop.
Oh, so you don't have.
That's
right. That makes sense. You wouldn't have.
Regardless.
I don't know. So, no wonder they can't hear me.
But yeah, that's the best it's ever looked.
Right. So you don't have. That's right. You lost all the original art to this, so you only have the old
original art's long gone.
Dang.
If I had to scan that in.
But you colored this yourself, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and I colored this Carl Cosmic too.
That's
And,
fun.
Didn't you do the Walt Simonson cover as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, Walt's cover and the cover I did with Ryan also.
Nice.
So there's a couple little things here and there, and then I slap the logos on all the things and stuff like that.
Andy Kuhn is just so great to see.
Yeah, I
Draw
love this stuff.
comics. He's so good.
It's just fun times. I really like his stuff a lot. It's nice. I mean, it's like he got a fair amount of newcomers, guys who've never done anything in Savage Dragon, got to do some stuff, which is cool for them. To be part of this anniversary issue is kind of like, oh, they were all super stoked about being part of that. And then it was nice to have some old favorites, Frank Fosco and Joe Keating.
Andy Kuhn he did Freak Force, so
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Frank absolutely killed his. I mean,
Yeah.
that backup was a goddamn masterpiece. The Ninja Turtles, so good.
Yeah. That's fun times.
Serendipitous timing with him and Gary wrapping up their TMNT run.
Yeah. And then Rich Woodall doing the stories, like, that was cool.
Yeah.
Who decided to do a Thor story there? Was that you pitched it at him or something that he wanted to do?
With most guys, I ask them what they want to draw. And so, it's like, what characters are interest you, that sort of thing. And he had mentioned the gods, and it was like, all right, I got something for you. So, yeah, and he really did a great job in that. I don't think I've seen a better Rich Woodall story.
As badly as Hercules gets messed up at the end, I kind of hope we see more of them soon, just to kind of see where they're at after this.
Yeah, we'll touch on them.
Yeah, I definitely really enjoyed that backup, and we had mentioned it on the last FINcast. The thing I loved about this backup is it's such a variety. So you have like the Flash Mercury, which is just kind of the silly gags that really don't seem like they're just there as comics. Just as
non
funny.
sequitur.
Yeah, you get the Deadly Duo, who's it's the Deadly Duo. Let's just say
Yeah.
Carl
But
Cosmic.
even in the context of those, we get to touch in on
Other.
Super Patriot, and we get to touch in on Daredevil, and we get to touch.
Yeah.
I mean, we
But
get to see the Bay Guardian in way more detail than we have before. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then you get a strip like Thor that kind of sets up something for future issues, which isn't maybe not just self-contained. It's definitely setting something up. So it was just a little bit of everything in it, and it was just fun. It was probably one of my favorite anniversary issues that you've done. In terms of just the backups alone, were just I don't know. I just went through them so fast. I was like, all right, what's this next one going to be? What's this next one going to be? Who are we going to see here? We got so many characters pop up. Like you guys said, the Bay Guardian being like, oh, you finally put that guy doing something. I was hoping he was going to be more than just a splash page or something.
Yeah. Too cool a visual to just waste.
Yeah, he ended up being way cool. I gotta say, when I was sitting there drawing that drawing, it's like, oh, kind of want to use this guy again.
He's awesome.
Yeah. How difficult is it to put this together, 100-pager with so many different guys on it?
It's a bear. It's a real bear to that, and I actually contacted more people than showed up for the dance. So, and stuff needed to be shuffled around a little bit. The backup that was in 249 with the Mighty Man story, that was originally going to run in 250, and then it just became, well, I can't fit everything. I can't add 8 pages. So my only hope was something's got to shuffle from 250, either get pushed later or earlier. And and then it was, well, I'll do Mighty Man. And then when I did put Mighty Man in there, actually that Dragon lead story is a little shorter than usual, and it's 8 pages, and that made it so that the story I did in 250 could be 22 pages. So that when I do the trades, these still works. 18 and 22 still have the right number of pages.
So much thought's got to be put into it, you forget.
It drives me crazy thinking all this.
For a little while, I know when we were first kind of learning about what was going to be in 250, I think you were going to put one of your ant stories in there or something. And
yeah, that was a thought too. And then when I thought I got to do Paul Dragon, then it was like, oh, I got to put in graphic fantasy. I can't not do that because it just established. It's got enough little cool things in there that if you're just studying the panels and going, oh, wait a minute, Dragon's 2 sons show up. This has got Mark and Peter Johnson show up as just, guys who attack Dragon in this sequence where he's fighting a bunch of superheroes.
Were those his actual sons? I was wondering because they're costuming.
Yeah. They were his actual sons. So, but it's the same situation where Dragon was merged with William when he had the 2 kids.
Right.
So, only he had merged with William initially and then had those 2 kids. So, yeah.
I agree that you can just look at the background panels and just see Kill Cat in a test tube, or Mako come into the apartment to try and recruit him. It is cool because it kind of gets that universe in a book in that backup.
Yeah, and then even when there's situations where you're sitting there, there's a bunch of people watching this Dragon movie where it's like, well, who's everybody who's in this picture, and who are all these guys?
Yeah, Zeke and.
Oh, there's some Luke Cage looking dude right to the right of Sergeant Marvel. Who the hell's he? And then later on down the road, I can go, oh yeah, that's Joseph Strange, the Bionic Man. It's like, oh, no shit.
I like the little flame guy, the Dormammu looking guy. He's all lit up. Everyone else is in the shadows.
Dude, we're trying to watch a movie here. Come on. Can you turn that off for just a second? Yeah, the guy in the far left on that same panel is a guy named Half Man. And if you could see the other half of his face, he was like Two-Face kind of guy. Or the other half is like a regular person, but he's half alien and half regular person. So
is the
but we don't see the half human part because he's cut off exactly in the middle.
Have we seen the woman all the way to the right?
No, she was like
the one with the afro.
She was like the giant girl. She could turn into a big old giant. So, yeah, what do we got from left to right? Half Man, then the Flame, then Rock, then that's Mark, right?
Yeah, it looks like Mark to me.
And then there's a character called Blackbeak. He'll likely never appear. And he was, I think, Sergeant Marvel's sidekick. So.
Oh, I get it.
All this time, I thought you just over-inked Super Patriot or something.
and then that's the Shrew right between Blackbeak and then Sergeant Marvel.
Nice.
And Joseph Strange, then Star, then Peter Johnson, then that's Zeke.
Yep.
He's sitting there, and then Dart, and I think I just straight up called her Giant Girl.
You heard it here first.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of these, it's like the next facing page, you can see like Tank's leg over there on the right hand side.
Oh yeah.
and I mean, it's like a lot of this, like, oh, who is that? What's that about? Where are these characters ever?
I like the look of the Bronze Man. He's kind of a cool looking dude.
That black shit that's on his head was added like way late in the game. When I originally drew him in my comics, he was essentially Iron Man. It was like, well, let me put this black crap on his face. And...
I love Namor Shorts, Mako.
Yeah,
I love Hero Mako. I knew he had the heart of a hero in him.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
And we saw that a little bit in the
very briefly.
Series. Yeah.
Briefly, he was on the side of the Angels. Yeah, I wish I had better glasses.
When you were
the background.
When you were first thinking of bringing Dragon into Image and coming out with the miniseries, did you, from the get-go, envision him having the new fin, the bigger fin, or did you first kind of keep him with the Paul Dragon fin? I know you have a dragon-like character in Marvel Comics Presents, and maybe that was the first type of prototype playing around with, but I was always just curious about that.
Kind of was. That was kind of where it was, where I gave him that because he was a variation on Paul Dragon in that, and then it was like, oh yeah, I should just use that fin. And then initially when I was going to do it at Image, I have a couple of pages in my sketchbook where I was trying out a bunch of different kinds of fins, and then it was like, yeah, I guess that one I used in Marvel Comics Presents was probably the best of those. So, oh well, I'll use that.
How have you never published that page with all the different fins?
I don't know. I don't know how I have it. A lot
it
of
seems
my
pretty awesome.
sketchbooks are not very good. But
Yeah.
they'll be better.
I mean, years and years and years ago, you were going to do like kind of an art of Erik Larsen book, right? I mean, it was at least solicited, or at least there was a house ad or something. I've definitely seen.
And it just ended up like, this is going to be too much work to assemble not only the sketches, but I think I promised some how to make comics the Image way kind of.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
There. And it was like, this is going to be too much work. I'll just do this shit on my Facebook page instead. So.
Bouncing around a little bit, but do you know, does Walt Simonson actually read the book? And the reason why I ask is because his cover was so kind of spot on to how the story is, which, you know, a lot of guys just do a pin-up or something like that. You can't really tell.
I don't know if he does or not. I would suspect he doesn't. I sent him shots of various characters and stuff like that, and when he had no idea of what he wanted to do, I was like, just do something like one of those old Uncle Scrooge covers where you know the kids are fucking around and he's getting disturbed, whatever he's trying to do.
Well, it just seems like it goes so well with the COVID issue, Stuck at Home, and it was a really fun cover.
Yeah. What a happy circumstance that COVID came and wiped out.
Really worked out for you.
Yeah.
You know, you laugh, but I feel like looking at, you know, the Savage Dragon Facebook page and stuff, I feel like COVID, with the stores closing, a lot of people went out looking for existing comics that either, you know, they stopped collecting for a while or looking for something new. And I felt like Savage Dragon scratched the itch for a lot of people looking for a long run of stuff, because I see a lot of new faces. And then I don't know if you noticed recently, I mean, probably not, because I don't think you're shopping for back issues of Savage Dragon, but just from seeing people post things and the prices that they're paying for some of these back issues is insane. And I go on eBay and look, and it's like there's nothing available anymore.
I know.
It's
I know
crazy.
That. There's talk at at Image because Eric Stevenson was contacting me at one point and going, should we just do? I mean, Marvel keeps doing these back issues where they're doing a new version of the old back issue.
Mm-hmm.
Should we just do that with a bunch of issues of Savage Dragon?
Oh, you mean like the facsimiles in the
facsimiles things? Because it's like those are impossible to get for anything less than a shit ton of money.
As long as you include the posters.
Well, I mean, real early issues are readily available. Those things that I wouldn't think would be. If you can't find Savage Dragon #1 at cover price, you're not really trying.
Try harder.
It seems like after issue 100, it gets pretty difficult.
I think
even after after issue 50, like 51 and up, I think are those start getting difficult because people will be like, I can't find issue 63. It's driving me nuts.
I'm having a similar issue actually, and yes, stuff after 75 actually gets harder to find as well, but not as hard as stuff after 100 and 125.
Yeah,
it's really uncommon.
Yeah, because at this point you've got stores that are just we've got our customers and we buy the book for those customers and they're being pulled and they're being put in the slot and it's and nobody else can ever buy it because it's never on the stand.
That does seem to be the problem. Although I think a lot of your issues are still available through Diamond. If you just back order them, they might turn up. I don't know about going all the way back to like the hundreds.
I never know how that works.
And occasionally I'll get contacted and go, we're paying a lot of storage fees for these issues. You might want to, do a sale or just dump these things. I know at one point people were just having runs of their comics just destroyed.
Wow. So they back charge Image for storage, like for any unsold issues?
Yeah.
Wow.
People have these real storage issues with stuff.
That's amazing.
There's tons and tons and tons of these books that are just all over the place. It's like, well, what can we do?
It is funny. You think about a previews every single month, a phone book worth of new shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of those they don't sell super well. And how many are you going to print? How many are you going to overprint?
Maybe 1,000 copies in a box somewhere, and it takes up space.
Yeah. Space. Exactly. Sheesh.
I mean, what?
So you're saying?
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So you're saying that Image is thinking of publishing single issues just for like special issues, or like the run, or
key issues.
Key issues that are going for a lot on eBay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I don't understand the appeal of those kind of like reprints, the dollar comics, the facsimile editions, that sort of stuff. I mean, I guess they're cool to have, but do collectors really want them?
Yeah,
well, I think it's.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet.
I mean, I do. I go to there. It's like I'm never going to be willing to part with that much money to own Incredible Hulk #1.
Oh.
But I'll facsimile that in a heartbeat so I can see all those shitty ads and.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Just what was in that comic? Transport me back to that time.
How hard is it going to get all the Wildstorm ads in, though?
Oh, we just do it and just say
ask for forgiveness.
Oh shit!
Oops.
Well, by that, those aren't the issues that I think there's a high demand for anyway.
Right.
I think by the time Wildstorm was
gone from Image,
it's like that's when it started picking up. So, I mean, right now, what would be? I don't even know what the issues would be, but whatever.
I was gonna say like Obama, Trump.
Trump's kind of new, though.
Yeah,
but that makes it harder to find.
Yeah, it does make it harder to find.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
103. Well, 103 is popular because it's got the first appearance of Invincible in the back. That's why that one sells out all the time.
That's just a preview page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's one of them.
So
Yeah.
With the cartoon coming out, perfect timing for a reprint.
I wonder how many people watch that cartoon or even are aware that it existed.
I heard Seth Rogen's in it. I'm out. Hard out. No Seth
Yeah.
Rogen. Can't do it.
what about the Savage Dragon cartoon back on Peacock? I've been hearing people like pleasantly surprised to find that. There's actually quite a few people that grew up with that and have a soft spot for it, and it's kind of nice that it's back on available on streaming. That you have that. It's like, oh yeah, that exists, and it's not a crappy version.
Yeah, no, I mean it's pretty rough looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the sad part is that it doesn't look like they took care of their master tapes, so I don't think it's ever going to look much better. But it does look much better than it did bootleg-wise,
copy.
yeah.
Well, I watched it on my computer and it looked like ass.
Oh, I'm not. It doesn't look great. It's rough.
I think the masters are a little better than that. It's a little cleaner. It looks like fuzzy JPEGs watching it.
Ooh. Can you imagine 480 TV on a 4K TV? It's going to look like just dog shit.
Oh, I know. I've got a decent sized TV downstairs and watched, I don't know, maybe 15 consecutive seconds of it. And it's like, okay.
I'm out.
15 consecutive seconds.
1, 2, 3, count them.
I still probably at some point will get together with a couple of chuckleheads and do a
Oh, you got to. People would love that.
commentary. God, there's a couple of really great freeze frames if I could find them, but it's like it'd be searching like a needle through a haystack to find them. Because there's one where Dragon is talking next to Frank, and then Frank takes his hand up to stroke his own chin, but they colored it as Dragon's hand. So it's really like this odd reach of Dragon just reaching over,
Stroking his chin.
to stroke his friend's chin. It's like, what the hell is going on here? That is hilarious. And then, just isolated instances where people's mouths just randomly disappear because they just did such a shitty job.
Hey, you got to roast that shit. You got to cut that track. Absolutely.
Gotta, but it's like, do you really want to sit through 26 of these? I mean, holy crap! There's at least one episode that I've never seen fully because I just like, all right, I'm fast forwarding.
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
There's a few characters in there that don't really show up in that were just for the cartoon. I know Mark Welser has done a backup for you, and he's pretty active on the Savage Dragon fan page. He likes to draw some pinups of those characters. What's like the red bird girl or whatever? I don't even remember what her name is. Bulkhead, which I think showed up in his backup. I think he also showed up in Freak Force Volume 2. But
yeah, he did. There's a character called Ma who never showed up. And there's a character I don't remember his name yet. Sort of hook arms. I don't.
It's like, oh, here you can either pick from one of these thousands of Vicious Circle goons from the comic, or let's just make up some new ones.
Well, when it got to those characters, they would have me do a drawing.
Yeah.
Because they would send me something. We want to do something like this, and it's like, all right, maybe try this instead. And I would send them something back. I didn't do one for that red whatever character,
bird character.
Alex disguises himself as a freak, and I was like, oh, good. That's a bad idea all around.
But we did get mud out of it, so.
We did get mud. Never referred to by name, as I remember.
That's pretty ingenious.
Fun times.
We didn't talk about the coloring, and we've talked about it a lot recently. We always talk about it because we think Nikos does such a fantastic job.
Right.
Nikos and Nito.
But I mean, if you look back at like 138, I think was his first issue with Adam Archer. It almost looks like you've had like 5 different colorists since that, and it's the same guy, and trying different experiments. And I'm sure, like I think he said before, that you guys work together and test different things out. This new kind of look is I think you guys have really hit something with this. I mean, it blows our socks off looking at it. It's really fun, and it seems
almost
like you guys
watercolory.
Like it.
Yeah, it's interesting look. I like it.
Well, I remember back when he started adding texturing to the flats, and I really liked that. But now he's starting to layer in like lots of different, like, I'm not a colorist, so I don't know how to describe this, like depth, which I like even more.
Yeah,
highlights and shadows that he wasn't quite doing before, but now it's all come together. It looks so good. It looks like watercolors or like really high end markers. It's great.
We were geeking out over like in 250, like Lightning Girl, and the shading and the colors of her legs, and almost looks like sweat or there's the shine. It looks so good. Like the one page where Maxine's backside, is it just. It just looks the full figure.
You can say butt, it's okay.
Her ass.
This is a mature rated show. You can say butt.
Yeah. I have 2 little kids, so I have to watch it.
Scott James enjoyed that too much. He made his enjoyment on the last show made me uncomfortable.
No, but it just everything pops so much. It really adds to it.
That we went. There was some back and forth on that butt. It's like, all right, it's got to be read a little more like this.
It was a good butt.
Yeah. No, that page is great. I love it. I love everything that's going on in it. How you can make such a simple action, be such a fun page to play with the panels and everything in the full figure. A lot of these.
Tough thing with this book was, hey, these characters are sheltering at home. How are you going to make this visually interesting? How are you going to make it so that you're going from the right panel to the next panel in some cases?
It's a minor thing, but I really like that metallic swirl you put on the lamp.
Which is that?
In 251?
Yeah, in 251. That's what we're talking about, right?
No, he's talking about
I was going
butt
250.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Maxine's butt.
But guess what, Jim? That's a good butt, too.
Oh, we got butts.
Oh, we're talking. Oh, that's right. The other butt. Good point.
Yeah,
fair point.
The pointing butt. Yeah.
Just all the full figures in 250. Greta Gearbox. You get that view. You almost feel like you're one of the Dragon Kids looking up at her. I don't know. It's just fun. I love how you.
The profile page with all the comic team.
Yeah.
And just the giant profile of Malcolm, and the kids are jumping on pillows and shit on the bottom. The layouts blew our balls off on that last issue.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's a good butt on 251 too, Jim. I think the Brappa Lorch, like the way the liquid's flying off the Lorch. Did you give him like direction on that, or is it his own inspiration? Because that's hilarious.
He did that.
Genius. That's pulling his weight, man.
Yeah. And then I had to tuck it in and around the man chowder.
So funny. Even I really think that like you've just been kicking ass in a lot of different weird ways. Like for all these, and I always tell people, I'm like, dude, listen. I said the thing with it is, sorry, we're gonna kiss your butt for an anniversary style here. I said this book's been going on for so long, 28 years, And I said, Eric's still finding ways to do shit that is, like, surprising and interesting. And, like, for instance, Dart standing in 251 in front of that backdrop.
Awesome.
It is awesome. And it's just an imposing figure, and the chandelier, and just the really fancy, the mansion fancy. It's just, I don't know, it's just not something I was expecting. And then you flip the page, and there it is, and it's like, God damn, this is good. You can see the piano in the background. Oh, it's just good, dude.
That was drawn from reference.
Doesn't matter. It's still awesome.
No, I know. It's just like I gotta do some reference. Like I don't my house isn't that fancy. It's fancy enough. I don't have crazy couches like that. So there's a fair amount of stuff where I'm just like, I need to step outside of my comfort zone and do some stuff that I'm not used to doing to just mix things up visually and come up with some different stuff, you know?
Did she just move into that mafia guy's house that she killed last issue?
Basically.
Okay.
She just it's like, oh, what's going on? I'm sure that he's probably not talking too much to anybody else in the place anyway. Yeah. So I'll just take over his deal.
The textures on the floor in the black, like I don't know, it's kind of some kind of marble.
It's like marble, yeah.
It's great, good stuff.
It's the little things.
The "Don't Moose with Me" T-shirt, stuff like that.
But it's hilarious though, the reaction. You think that she's gonna be like, "Dragon's back," you know, and fired up, and she's basically just kind of like, "Nah, whatever." Who cares?
I think
He's old now.
I think she's underestimating him a little bit. Hopefully, it doesn't bite her in the ass too badly.
What Paul's like thinks they're bros.
They got quite a few people up there at this point, so you know, if the vicious circle all decides, you know what, let's just take care of the Dragon Boys for good. They're pretty outnumbered.
Well, it was kind of cool too. Like, it felt like we talk about the Malcolm reuniting with his crew from Dimension X, like some of his longest supporting characters, and they're reunited. And then also, too, there was the move to get everybody more up to Chicago, which is cool because it has
Toronto.
Or Toronto, Chicago. What I'm talking about, from Chicago, right? In a lot of ways, it was kind of awesome because it felt like he made big strides to just kind of close the book on Chicago, which was unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh well.
Yeah, I think it's awesome because I see still commenters, people are like, "Oh, I miss Chicago," and I'm like, dude, Toronto has been a million times more interesting than Chicago as a location.
It really does feel more like a place.
Yeah.
Chicago did sometimes.
Chicago. I mean, I probably referenced a couple things in Chicago once or twice. Very, very seldomly did I use any kind of photo reference. I did manipulate a photo once or twice.
But you did build up cool things in Chicago, like the Chicago PD and the Rock House Diner and stuff, but ultimately all that stuff was temporary because it never, you know, they all died or got blown up.
Yeah, and it's all made up shit, too. It's not, you know, with
Freak out
Toronto, I'm sitting there going, I'm going to use the poop cafe.
Like the bit with, you know, when Malcolm jumps away from the fight, you get that aerial view. Is that like a park, an actual park you're referencing, or?
I was looking at something, but I didn't go, that's not super accurate. Okay. I did look up something and it was like, all right, this could be this and this, and then it was like, or it could be not.
Right. It seems like that could drive you crazy to try to feel the need to reference everything.
Yeah, it's still, it can get a little weird when it'll be like, hey, here's a bunch of my made up buildings.
Yeah. And
then suddenly, oh, and here's an actual place that's referenced, and it's constructed completely different from anything else that we got going on here.
Sometimes that's a little noticeable, but if you if you did that, the room Dart was in from reference, I couldn't tell.
It seemed really natural.
Natural.
Well, I wasn't. I'm not tracing a photo for that, but there's times in other ones where I'm like, I'm gonna have there be a photo. I'm gonna manipulate it in Photoshop till it's black and white.
Oh.
And then I'm gonna use those as shadows, and then I'm gonna do, lines for the line part of the building, and then I'm gonna add some texture to it. So when you look at like the Hockey Hall of Fame, it's like that's the real Hockey Hall of Fame. That's not a made up building, and it's based on.
One time you did that with a car, and we all went, "That's not an Erik Larsen car."
What's going on here? That's not a shitty Erik Larsen car. I know what those look like.
The great thing about Toronto too is that it's a pretty huge city, and it's got a massive amount of skyscrapers. So that's
it's a decent size. It's Chicago size. It's very very similar in size to Chicago, and it's the biggest. It's the biggest city in Canada, so it's got that going on.
But just the sheer number of skyscrapers. Like I live in the middle of Philadelphia, and when you go to Toronto, we have family up in Toronto. Just the sheer amount of skyscrapers and the amount that are going up, it's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Chicago's got a lot of the older, I feel like, buildings. I mean, it is also a huge city, but
it was suggested that I should move Dragon to San Francisco at some point. It's like, you're way more familiar with San Francisco, and you could reference all the stuff. And even if you wanted to, you could even go out and take a photo of something. Mm-hmm. But San Francisco's tiny.
Yeah.
We actually start going around the city. It's like, this is 7 miles by 7 miles.
Right. Weird.
It's got water on 3 of those sides. So it can't be any bigger, and then, and then it becomes different cities here and there. Whereas Toronto, it's like, oh no, this is a city. It's a decent sized city, and Chicago is a decent sized city.
Right. I mean, I feel like you only get that with those. New York. I mean, L.A. The city itself it's sprawling, but it's not a big city. And then if you travel overseas, our cities look so tiny compared to some of the countries out there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
it's weirdly weird. No good natural segue for this, but it's. I thought it was kind of cool how when you have Mind Warp beating the shit, using his powers to make Dragon beat the shit out of himself. What issue was that, guys? Where we were like, Dragon punching himself is a little awkward. You nailed the shit out of it in these panels.
Yeah, it was like one of the we did a retro.
Yeah, it would have been like
one of the single issues.
4 or 5, I think. I can't remember what the circumstances were off the top of my head.
But it was funny because we were like, it's so weird. This Dragon beating his own ass. That kind of seems a little awkward. But man, you nailed the body language on this shit. Perfect.
Thanks.
Also, you use those cool scratchy panels that we were talking about in the.
Yeah, I love seeing them back. Like I said, I forgot how much I missed them, and you see them, and you're like, you know what? These are really fun.
They are. There's some cool things. I need just seeing them. These issues in print. There's definitely things I need to watch out for in the future. But there'll be sometimes where I've got things that are bleeding really far to the right, and then bleeding really far to the left, and it's almost created an inadvertent double page spread here. Might want to be wary of such things in the future. These pages in 249, especially with Angel punching some dude, and then the next page is Malcolm getting punched, and it's like, oh, these kind of are bleeding too much into one another. Best not to do too much of that kind of stuff. So.
Completely over our heads. We didn't notice.
I mean, it's the sort of thing that bugs me is the accidental double page spread.
Yeah.
And that's just from having 2 pages with full bleeds right next to each other.
Yeah. If you're bleeding right on the left-hand page and bleeding left on the right-hand page, and you end up with just background elements that line up perfectly.
Yeah.
And
So it's the page where Angel's ramming a guy, right?
yeah,
And then like there's an action line that goes right across Malcolm's his left hand arm. So it's like a tangent going on there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's all right, but there's a big chunk of space which is bleeding into another big chunk of space.
Yeah.
That does kind of just visually, I find it a little jarring. And it's like, don't do that. Oh, well.
I can't wait to see more of the Vicious Circle, though. I know from the solicitations we're going to be seeing more of them. It was fun to learn a little bit more about, Bare Hands or Sickly.
Bare Hands is so cool.
Is there anything behind that scene where she's like her kid's in the car and she's running to the car?
I just want to establish that a lot of these characters will have lives, and that a lot of these characters will have second generation versions of them, or just freakish offspring, so that so that's not just the guys, not just this group of 6 kids who jumped through the window in 250, but there are others out there who have also got families. At some point I was contemplating, I should do a page where I've got just various family members that are coming into town and setting up their apartments and doing other shit, in preparation for the other people to come over the border, because there's, I would think a lot of the loved ones that these people have would just be like regular people, it's right. Like, she takes her mask off and maybe she's got a burly head or whatever, but otherwise, we don't know what a lot of these characters even look like outside of their mask. It's like we've never seen Vane with her mask off. We don't know what's underneath there.
I've assumed veins.
Who knows? It could be any number of things. You've got that samurai girl who shows up, and you've got a bug who shows up, and it's like, or insect or whatever the fuck she's called. I have to look it up every time.
Same here.
Who is that? What are they all about?
I love that she's getting Samurai is kind of being established as almost like the right hand person for Dart, and we're seeing a little more characterization of them. It's always fun
to establish kind of more of the hierarchy of who's there and what's there, and at this point she's showing up because she's one of the few who's fully masked, so. Even in the time of COVID, it's like, all right, you could be my delivery person.
Right.
With Waylon Whipple, Octopus Jr., I guess. I don't know if that's what you call him, but
yeah, he is.
It was, we
corpse now.
Right.
we learned that he gets his little the space squid attached to him. And I don't know if you even thought about it, cared, doesn't matter, but is the thought in your head that that's the same thing that happened with his father?
Yeah, that would be the idea. That they're basically, let's duplicate this thing that went on with your dad and get that going on here so we can have you be a freak like us.
Nice. I was telling the boys, I said it's cool because even if you never ever do anything else with it, it kind of takes like what was just an established visual for like a long time and now makes it like a tool in the toolbox. Like somebody else could do it.
Also, you can go into Dimension X and there can be some of those squids running around.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, I'm being attacked by, fuck, this is familiar. It's a bunch of 4-armed purple squids.
I mean, Waylon got his head crushed. Maybe that squid's still out there.
Could be, dude.
He's fine. He's just got a fucking dead body attached.
Should grow a squid head in place of Waylon's head and takes over the host.
And I'm still all about the ladies.
Yeah, there's so much going on.
Yeah, so good, dude. So much. Leads.
And again, it's a little thing. I love that panel, that page with the, 15 panels of where you're basically trying to figure out Paul's deal. Him and Malcolm are hashing it out.
In 251.
That is hearkening way back to the first issue of the miniseries when I would do those 15 panel pages. That was like Dragon and Frank talking with the lightning going on outside the window.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big time.
Same kind of thing. I think I was referencing that. I think if you look back at it, you might go, "Oh yeah, it's a close up." At the same time, it's a close up there, and it's a far away shot. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I ripped that off. That is the same page that's in issue 1.
That is really cool to find out.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
If you look that up, it'll be like the same. I mean, they're saying different stuff, but it's like, it's the same basic theme.
Oh,
Kind of.
yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's great because that's the kind of thing we would totally miss, like on our own. You know what I mean?
I'm sure a real fan would have seen that.
Yeah, real fans. We got to get some of those guys to do a podcast.
Mark Welser, Gavin.
Yeah, it's really cool because you got this wide shot with the picnic table, and in the original, it's a wide shot with the hospital bed. That's a great.
Yeah.
I have to laugh when I look at the last page of 251 and you have next issue, Famous Funnies, and going back, I think when maybe it was some kind of talk on the page, or maybe last time we talked to you, you were saying how, with COVID and stuff, you're able to catch up a little bit and get ahead so that you're not writing solicitation copies and not knowing where you're going to go with it at the time. And then you go and do this to yourself with the Famous Funnies. And
it took me like 2 months to put together that issue. It was such a pain in the ass.
And so for the listeners, this is 252, which is going to be all kind of funny books, comic strips based on real comic strips.
Basically, every 2 pages is a double page spread. The exceptions being page 1 and page 20. Page 1 is a single panel, so that I did Family Circus, which is a circular splash page. And the last page is it's still a Sunday, but it's stacked different.
Nice. Oh, I can't wait for that one.
That's gonna be a good one.
Did you finish drawing the issue yet, or?
Yeah. It's at this point I'm waiting for the lettering on page 20, but other than that, it's all lettered even.
I know.
Go and learn how to letter like a bunch of different cartoonists.
Good luck lettering like Seeger.
So you're lettering it?
No, he Farron lettered it.
Oh, okay.
But he's lettering like we sent back and forth a huge number of strips where I would go and find a bunch of them and send them to him, and so he'd be matching styles on all these different strips.
That's incredible.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you see them all.
No one expected that. That's what I'm saying, is no one expected you to go that far. That's crazy.
Oh, it's crazy, I mean, it's all... I'm still kind of trying to figure out if I'm going to do them with the big dots or not. I haven't decided whether I'm going to do that or... Because, when those things are reprinted, they're printed on nice paper and
Right.
they always look super slick. But then, there's something about having the dots on them that makes you feel like, oh, this is right out of the funnies. But I don't know. I'm still debating that. I haven't put a dot pattern on anything yet. Everything's colored flat though. It's not colored like Nico's usual coloring stuff.
Right.
I actually screwed with it way more than I should have. I mean, some of these are practically colored by me at this point. But whatever. It's like, oh no, they wouldn't do that in Peanuts. We got to do it this time.
Speaking of giving yourself a break, taking it easy, we had sort of heard you in the past float around the idea of possibly, like, maybe giving yourself a break on your next anniversary issue. And the boys and I were saying that, like, with the timing, you got 300 looming large, and 275 would be your next anniversary issue, like, kinda. Were you thinking maybe it'd be like just take a pass, let 275 be normal, and then just kill it on 300? Or you've thought about the future on that at all?
It might not be a 100-page issue.
Sure.
But every 25 since time began, they've been at least a 48-pager.
Cool.
So, I mean, 25 was, and 75 was, and 125 was a big one. I think 225 is the first time I did a 100-pager on the 25 mark, like that. So I think
that was a big deal issue, though.
Which was insane because you did 115 at like 100 pages, didn't you?
Yeah, that was a good idea. With that, it was mostly, wasn't that one mostly
backup? It was the
Freak House Diner.
Force. Wait, was it?
The Rock House Diner. I'm sorry, right? 115.
Was that the Rock House Diner, or was that the Freak Force backup? I think it was the Freak Force one in 115. We were real fans with the Wikipedia.
You could be right.
Only we had internet access, but we don't.
I was going to say, this is what the listeners love, to hear us struggle.
I know. It's just like, the part where we're just... No, it wasn't Rock House. Was it Rock House Diner?
I'm checking right now.
No, it was
Freak Force by Englehart.
Mark Engler, which is crazy because I have original art from that story, so I should know.
Braggarts.
Well, there was other stuff
Whatever.
too. There was also Mighty Man was in there, and I think you reprinted Mr. Glum's story too.
Yep. From like Negative what was that anthology? Oh no, it was from More Fun Comics.
Yeah, that was More Fun Comics. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
We came through.
So yeah, on the funniest one. It was a pain in the ass. There's no denying what a pain in the ass it was.
But was it worth it?
Most of them, it was a lot of swipes too from the actual strips that I'm emulating. So it's like, all right, let me see. I can do this.
I tried my hand at it just for funsie, and it is a lot of work just to do 4-panel gag. I had to look up like 30 images to make sure I got things right.
Those Arbuckle are hard.
Yeah, no, it's super, super tough. And some of these guys, it's really hard because they're so terrible.
Yeah, yes.
It's like sitting here doing Kathy, and I'm going, I can't draw that bad. It hurts my brain to go, oh, she's got one arm that's attached to her shoulder, and this other arm is coming out of the middle of her chest.
Did you make it intentionally unfunny too to match?
It's the same kind of. It's very much along the lines of Kathy. All of them I kind of did. I mean, that way. I mean, Dick Tracy's not super on model in terms of what would be in a Dick Tracy strip.
weirdos with weird heads, and you got lots of those.
Well, it was so in the midst of all the Black Lives Matter stuff going on that it was like, oh, let me do some fucking shitty police stuff, in the midst of all this. So it kind of touches on that. Fuck.
I'm sure there were other problems.
Looking at it now. My son gave me the name. It's like, some of these are better than others. It's like
there were other problems too. Like again, I was just doing it for fun. Just did like a Garfield one, and like
I saw that. That was good.
Well, thank you. As I was working on it, I was thinking to myself, I was like, it reminded me of when you said, "How did Bill Watterson draw black people?" He didn't. Like I was trying to I was like, well, Malcolm's black. I was like, how did Jim Davis draw black people? I couldn't find any.
Yeah.
There was no reference.
That's the same thing with what that Carl H. was dealing with when he was sitting there doing Dragonbird. It's like, okay, I've got Rapture showing up. Well, how does Scott Adams draw black people? It's like he doesn't.
He doesn't.
They just never show up, and that's problem solved.
Yeah, I couldn't find anyone for Maxine. Like I was just like, oh, all right, no Asian, no black, nothing.
Yeah, it's like what do we do here? And I can see why cartoonists do it, because there's just a lot of shit that you avoid by just making everybody white. Because, when you start making people any other race and then having them do anything, then it becomes like, oh, what are you saying about black people? Or what are you saying about Mexicans or Asians or whatever? Because people get their panties in a bunch about just this different stuff. And I can, I can dodge some of that just because there's so many other examples where you can go, well, I'm not saying that all black people do that, because I've got 100 different black people in the book.
True,
and
yeah.
Clearly they're all doing different shit. So I can have there be, one fat black guy, and that's not, terrible. Whereas if that's your only black guy and he's fat, that's a problem.
Right. It becomes a commentary at that point.
Yeah, and that's becomes a real issue with a lot of people using minority characters. And I even got in some trouble when I was doing Spider-Man stuff, where I would do characters that were like, I just want this character to look interesting. He's a background character. Nobody's going to give a shit if I make this guy fat. And then it becomes an ordeal, like, oh, look at this horrible thing that you did here. Oh shit, yeah, I forgot there are no other black people in this strip. So having there be one guy and he's fat, that becomes a problem. When I was doing the Defenders, and I just made that one dude, I don't remember what his name was. But he was like this. I just was like, I'm just gonna make him like a black Mr. Glum, and so he's kind of crazy looking dude. And then I was like, at some point, it's like, oh shit, that's the only black guy in this strip, and he's 2 feet tall and crazy looking.
Yeah,
that's a problem. So I think you got it. You do need to kind of think globally to some degree, and at least go, all right, well, if I'm going to have people be this way, let's just have there be a larger pool of characters so that I can have characters be interesting looking. One of the things I appreciated about the movie, the cartoon Mulan, is that you look at that cartoon and you go, there are some characters, if you pulled them out of this cartoon, they would be super offensive. But because they're mixed in with all these other characters, they're not. Because it's just, no, that's just that one guy. That one guy looks crazy, but we're not saying all Asians look like that. Because look at all the other aliens. We've got, all these, for lack of a better word, European-looking Asian characters. And then you've got some that have got some really interesting characteristics about them. Okay, that is kind of cool that you can do that, because that's, I mean, I guess I made my point here like 30 times, but
that's one thing.
It can definitely be something where you really do feel hampered when you're drawing different characters. It's like, with white characters, I can have them look any way I want to. If I'm drawing black characters, there's this parameters where you got to be within these confines, or you're going to risk offending people.
Sure.
Right. And that's what I appreciate about Dragon. Like I said, I mean, I live, in a mixed race family. I know you do as well. But, and we both live in cities. Yeah, we both live in big cities. So I know for at least us, we see probably the same ratio of white and Asian and black people all around us, mixed in, and it really reflects your cast of characters that are so diverse, and it seems like it's almost always been like that in Savage Dragon.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, right from the get-go, it was, Dragon, Frank, and Alex. And it's like, okay, we've got Hispanic, we've got black, and we've got this green dude. And then, I mean, the problem when they were doing the cartoon was that they were sitting there going, well, we don't have any white characters. What the hell? Who's our white characters? Who's your sympathetic white character?
Is Dragon not white enough?
Yeah, he's got those Anglo features.
No, but they were like, well, he's a green dude, so he's not strictly white, and you don't have any white characters that were sympathetic. You would have a couple white characters that'd be like, oh, here's this fat white character.
What was that cop's name? He was great.
Oh, the one that was like, oh, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
The first character you see in here. What a first impression.
Yeah, Walt Gilroy.
Yes.
Named after one of the writers on the show.
I'm out of here.
You want a donut, Dragon?
But that was a situation where it was originally going to be Bruce Robinson, who was a recurring character from the Dragon comic book. But it was like, we can't have there be a fat black guy because that's a racial stereotype. And it's like, well, yeah, but we've got Frank and we've got these other characters.
It's not the only.
And it was like, no, they were really.
Racism's so weird because I've never heard that. That's one. I'm from West Virginia and I've never heard that. I've heard a lot of racist shit. I've never.
Maybe
heard
it comes
that.
down to like Fat Albert or something.
No, because
I think it's more Carl Winslow.
He was also lazy, and it was like, we don't want him to be a lazy fat black guy.
Which is because what's funny is modern thinking would say it's problematic just to have a fat person be lazy. Like, that's wrong too. You shouldn't do that either. Like, that's also shitty.
Yeah. What can you say?
It's funny because, I mean, since we're kind of dancing all around these hot taboos anyway, we were kind of saying what luck, like what a bullet dodge to not have Dragon be a cop at this time in history.
Yeah.
Like,
well, look at page 1 of Savage Dragon #1. That came right after the Rodney King situation.
Yeah.
That was like right there. It was like Rodney King happened, and then Savage Dragon 1 came out like instance later. It was really close.
Yeah, that's right. You got Dragon tackling Cutthroat.
Tackling a black guy on page 1 of his first issue, and it was like, shit. and it was I'm pretty sure I drew it before the Rodney King thing, and then the Rodney King thing hit, and it was like, oh, this could be trouble, and then it wasn't.
And they're like, oh yeah, Twitter wasn't invented yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Woo! Thank fuck.
Wow. And then, and then you kind of did that Operation Urban Storm stuff that didn't kind of come out, but you included it, and that was a pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Heavy-handed commentary. Weird.
It is
subtle at all.
I think Niesman would agree it was quite heavy-handed. Sorry.
All right.
It's a nice thing to not have to deal with. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think. What do you got, Craig?
I was just gonna say one last thing about 251, where we see the Ethrian backup, which is Frank Fosco's character, right? Is it Gary and Frank's character together, or is it just Frank's? I'm not sure.
I think it started with Frank, and then Gary was kind of brought on as scripter. I'm not sure if Frank plotted all his stuff out or not. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but I do know that he really wanted to get this thing colored and in print in a nice way.
So
I think
has this seen print before?
Yes.
This is Vanguard Ethereal Warrior.
It is the Vanguard one shot. Okay.
Yeah, it's that. It was originally drawn to be backups that were going to run in Vanguard.
Yes.
The idea was it was going to be a series of backups, and then Frank would
tie
do
in with the main
an issue, and it would tie in. So that was the initial plan. So Frank was like, I kind of want it to be that way. I never got to have it be the way it was intended to be. Can we run it the way it was intended to be? And I was like, all right, because he wanted to see it in color, and he wanted to see it
serialized, kind of, or
serialized. And so I was like, all right, want to do it, we'll do it. So that was
turned out beautiful. That's really great work by Frank.
Yeah, it's nice looking, and it colored up really nicely, and that the book was, it was drawn to be colored, so it was very open for color, and so it's just having it be in color was it's nice.
Yeah. Frank Fosco is great. I mean, he's a fan favorite, so it's always a treat to get some of his backups. I really enjoy him, so I was pretty happy to see that. I didn't see it coming. I didn't know it. Frank was pretty tight-lipped about it, and it was pretty cool when we flipped the page and saw that. So even though it's something I read it so long ago that it's like reading it for the first time again, and I like how it ties in with the previous E3N story that ran in Savage Dragon. So it's fun. It's cool.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
And Jim's out of here.
That wasn't me this time.
Oh, really?
I think Eric's got his window open.
Ah.
All right. What's going on?
I heard a car.
Or we just teasing about the motorcycle.
I got motorcycles by my place all the time.
Oh, I'm on a busy street.
Yeah, so am I.
It does not surprise me at all when that happens. It's a regular occurrence. I'll have ambulances and shit going by.
You've done a ton of podcasts, I feel like, after 250. It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's cool to see all the interest and excitement in the issue.
No, it's been fun.
I was getting a kick out of it was an Italian podcast where it was like someone was interviewing you and you had a translator too. And sitting there listening to someone talk for like 5 minutes and then switches to the translator. It's like 3 minutes of Italian and then it was translated in like 15 seconds of English.
Well, the translators seem to cut to the chase. We don't need this part where he's kissing your ass. Let's just get right to the question.
It's pretty cool to see the interest from overseas, and there's even on the fan page on Facebook, seeing someone like unboxing their issue 250 from Chile, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize that. I guess with the internet and stuff, it's so much easier to track things down and order things and get into things, but it's pretty interesting to see fans from locations where you wouldn't think that there would be a big American comics fan base.
Brazil, we got the Image Brazil team joining regularly to comment. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I love it.
Yeah, that's all right.
Global phenomenon, Savage Dragon.
Yeah, I wonder how many people are bumping into this on Peacock. It's on that I didn't even know the network existed, but I had a couple people just hey.
It's brand new. It just started. And it's also free with ads, so lots of people are watching it because it's free.
Yeah, the internet loves free with ad shit. Roku, Crunchyroll and all that stuff.
Crunchy what?
It's an anime thing. Don't worry about it, Craig.
Same thing. Yeah, same concept. Free with ads. That's all you need. It's not important.
Tubi's another one.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing for the book anyway. I would have to imagine just the timing of 250 plus that showing up on Peacock. It does seem. I know we said it several times. I'm just echoing Craig's point, but it really, as a fan, feels like you just feel that just overall swell of support.
I'll take it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Love it.
It's exciting. I'm having fun interacting with a lot of new people and talking Savage Dragon, because that's always the goal, to talk about whoever will listen, because we really enjoy it. And
grab them by the collar, shake them while you say it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Spread the good word.
Cool deal. Yeah, more of it.
So cool.
Oh my god! As much work as assembling 250 was, getting 252 behind me. It's it just feels like a way bigger ordeal than it should have been.
Still can't believe you did that to yourself after giving yourself breathing room.
It is such a. That would be the only way I could do it. If I did it without any kind of lead time, I don't think I would have been able to pull it off, or it would have been another issue that was super late.
Yeah. So those are the issues we remember and enjoy, most. We always get a kick out of it when you experiment, and it's one of our favorite things about the book. So really looking forward to it.
It's such a different writing experience too, because it's I kind of have to emulate these strips, and the timing of those strips and the way they would set them up, and I ended up reading just a shit ton of comic strips, and then you have to reference every goddamn line on a lot of these, and some I pulled off, and some are yeah, dude, you're not even close. It's whatever.
For a lot of this research or whatever, do you go out and buy up books, or is it a lot of just internet research, or how are you?
A lot of them, I have books already. I've got all the collected Calvin and Hobbes. I've got all the collected Peanuts. So
some Dick Tracy or something.
Yeah, I've got some Dick Tracy stuff handy. I'm trying to think of what ones I don't have.
I mean, you mentioned the Popeye stuff, and I didn't even know it was named by something. For me,
it was
Popeye was a cartoon for me.
Yeah, Popeye was a comic strip that started in a strip called Thimble Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Popeye wasn't even, an initial character in that. He showed up years later.
Wow, I had no idea.
It was all about Olive Oil dating other dudes.
Yeah, a guy named Ham Gravy and Olive Oil's sister Castor Oil was what that series was about, and it was great.
And then eventually Popeye showed up as a character,
stole the show.
So
and stole the title.
Yeah, and eventually took over. But it was Thimble Theater all the time that Cigar was doing it. And so it was like up into the 70s that it was still called Thimble Theater, at least in some places. And then it officially became Popeye, and Bud Sagendorf took over. But yeah, I was going after the original look, or trying to.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these have got different kind of panel configurations, because the panel configurations changed from year to year from a lot of these strips, depending on what was going on. Eventually they settled into this thing that everybody kind of had to adhere to. But
newspaper strips looked a lot different in the 20s and the 30s.
They really did. I mean, people were suggesting, hey, you should do Little Nemo. And it's like
tough.
You'd have to do a treasury-sized issue.
Well, the problem with Little Nemo is it's oriented different. It's tall.
Yeah.
Right. Because he would do a whole comic page in the funnies, so it would be an entire page. So you can't do that. Can't do that if you're doing it as double page spreads, certainly. Mm-hmm. And then it's you if you're doing it as single pages, it's going to be really tough to read. Because those were really detailed strips, and it's going to be, you're just going to be looking at it going, what the hell am I even looking at? And plus the lettering's all shitty and stuff.
Yeah. Those early Nemo strips, they didn't even have like word balloons. All the dialogue was like strips, like at the top of the panel.
Yeah. And there's going through and deciding what strips I could do and what strips I couldn't do. Some were initial, like, oh, I really want to do this one. And then I just couldn't come up with a good joke for it for certain strips. And it's like, God damn it. You can't quite pull this one off for whatever reason. So,
want to throw out an example of just like one? Just like one you wanted, but just were like, yeah, I couldn't do it.
Shoot, I mean, there's a bunch of them. I was going. I mean, really, if you just start naming strips, at one point I was like entertaining doing Garfield. I didn't do it. I didn't end up doing For Better or For Worse, although that was one that I got pretty far along with.
Oh, so you were actually drawing them in
yeah, it's like that one I got really far along with, and then I showed it to Lynn Johnston, and she was just like not having it. Like, okay, yeah, better to ask forgiveness than ask permission. I kind of learned that lesson the hard way. And then what else? There's this strip called Tiger that I wanted to do because I really like the art style.
Oh, you shared some of that on Twitter. I'd never seen that.
Yeah, I love that guy's art. Nobody would get it because it's unfortunately the style is too similar to some other strips, and it's like, once you lose, I don't have a character. I can't put hats on the kids, and the main character in that wears a hat. So I couldn't do that. And once it became like regular people, and then it was like, and this is going to be filtered through my style, there's just no way you're going to recognize it as being Tiger anymore. But that didn't stop me from reading a million of them.
I was almost expecting some kind of Hagar, however you say it, Thor story or something.
But no, a lot of them didn't work because of their location.
Yeah.
Like, do a Flash Gordon strip. That sounds great, but unless I'm going to do a flashback to regular Dragon with
the Krillians or whatever.
Girls, with those characters and Emperor Krull shit.
Captain Tootsie could be Flash Gordon.
Yeah, I guess I could. But then it would have been a flashback. I didn't really want to do flashback stories. I wanted it to continue the the narrative that I have going on in the book.
Right.
So I put a lot of really, constraints on myself, which made it difficult.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of just different things that made it so I couldn't do it.
I mean, I imagine, kind of knowing you, that these stories will fit in continuity, right? Still, even though they're kind of like gag.
Yeah, they'll seem reminiscent of the strip, and at the same time, it's those characters. It helps that Malcolm and Maxine have pet names for each other, so that even when you don't get it, they're referencing stuff. So in the Thimble Theater one, it's like, what is it, Olive Pit? It's like, you go pick up some milk, Pop Rocks. And it's like, all right, so we're establishing the nicknames right away, so that at least kind of sets up that kind of mode. And I do the same when it's Dagwood, stuff like that. It's like, all right, we'll make it obvious enough. But like some, I didn't even make an attempt in terms of titling the strip to sound like the person's strip. It's like, style-wise, it's so Kathy looking style-wise that I didn't think that I needed to call it something that sounds like Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, it's one of the characters' names, so I'll just name it that. Same thing when I got to Blondie. It's like, I don't have any character that sounds like Blondie, so
right.
I'll just, do whatever. And with the Calvin and Hobbes one, it was like, fuck, what am I gonna? I already did kind of a Calvin and Hobbes riff earlier, so it's like, do I just do more of that, or what the hell? But I kind of wanted to introduce a Hockey Tawny type character.
Yes.
Captain Marvel. So it's like, I just want to have there be one of these animal men be a tiger, and just have so I just do Amy and I just do a tiger name. I just wanted to have it be a name that down the road could still be a name that means something, and not tie it in completely
to an existing
Hobbes. Because initially it was like, I'll just have it be, Amy and Slobs, or Amy and Slobs, or whatever. But if I did that kind of a name, then I would be
stuck
like,
with it.
I'm stuck with this tiger forever being named Blobs, and what the hell? I don't want a tiger named Blobs in my book. So I really wanted something that could be a Hockey Tawny kind of name. That would be all right. It works as a talking tiger dude. So, well, and her version, when she's seeing him looking very much like Hobbes. But when Maxine walks in and sees, the two of them just fighting with each other, it's like, oh, she's fighting with a real tiger. It's like, holy shit. So anyway.
This is going to be good.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Sorry. But I'm still stoked about this. I'm stoked about this issue, and for a lot of different reasons. Just because it was such an artistic challenge to try and pull this shit off.
Yeah, it's crazy. We said it many times before, but it's like, you don't have to do this. Nobody's twisting your wrist to force you. It's not like, hey, Larsen, you better pull another miracle out of your ass, or you're done. It's like you're totally just throwing this shit on your own self.
Yeah, for no good reason, and then I regret it immediately. And it's like, all right, what's my next challenge going to be?
Well, that was, funny you should ask. Do you have any ideas brewing? We obviously don't need to know, but I'm just saying, do you have any, like, now that you're done and you've put that one to bed, mostly, are the gears spinning towards another challenge, or are you just like, fuck it, I'm going to, like, give myself a break for a while?
Well, I'm going to give myself a break for a while.
Sure,
I
sure.
mean, the obvious follow-up would be to do a comic book one and just go, okay, be Jack Kirby for a page, now be Gene Colan, now be Salvage Salmon, now be, and just run through a number of different comic book artists. And, and with those guys, at least I'm way more familiar with their work to begin with.
Sure.
So it would be somewhat easier to pull that shit off. On the other hand, it's still a pain in the ass, and I don't know how many people would go, oh, I know who you're referencing,
Right?
Because a lot of the artists whose stuff I would be looking at would be guys who aren't active in the field anymore. So then
So for newer comic readers, it would go.
So, yeah, if you're a modern comic reader, are you going to recognize Gene Colan's art style? Would you recognize Steve Ditko's? Would you recognize... Jack Kirby's is probably wide enough known that you put enough squiggles on something that you get it. But, I don't know. And can I pull off 20 different guys? Or would I try and do it like this, where I'm doing 2 pages next to each other? Like you'll have the Jack Kirby experience for 2 budding pages, or can I do 20 different guys? And how well can I pull it off?
Right.
Can I do a Joe Kubert that's good enough that you're going to go, oh, that totally feels like Joe Kubert? Or would I have to swipe these guys shamelessly? Do it.
We can wait.
With some of these guys, it's like I had to full on swipe them. There was just no way that I could pull this off on my own. So, oh well.
Whatever gets the job done.
Yeah, the job done. Those sites where they're always finding swipes are going to have a field day with this one. I admit it. I'm a thief. You got me.
It's funny because the modern comic artists, people that are growing up with digital, entirely digital workflows and stuff, where they don't even use paper and they hate paper and stuff, and those kids don't give a shit. They'll trace right over a photo and just keep going. They don't care.
Oh yeah. I can totally tell too when I'm seeing it going through. It's like, yeah, you haven't made up a building in your life. These are all just photographic reference stuff. This isn't made up. These are real buildings.
What'd they call it? Photo bash? I saw the phrase 2 weeks ago and I was like, photo bash, and now I see it everywhere. And I'm like, photo bash, what? It's like collage. They'll collage something together and then trace it, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh, there were some guys who were having an inker ink things, and they would send it to them, right? So they would pencil, and then they would send the pencil stuff, and then the inker would ink it, but he'd ink it on real paper. They'd print it out.
Oh yeah.
There was some guy who was just flat up taking photographs and putting them in the background, and the inker would have to turn them into drawings.
Oh.
It's like,
that's shitty.
No, it's totally shitty. What are you doing?
Super shitty.
But by the time it saw print, it's like, yeah, it kind of looks like somebody drew that background.
Wow. If I was an inker and I got a page full of drawn foreground figures and just photos over photos, I'd be mad as fuck.
Yeah, I would be. Like, what are you doing, dick?
Yeah. Oh my God.
at least get somebody to draw your backgrounds for you.
Yeah.
That's how the manga industry works.
Oh, I know. Those guys got a ton of people who are just working away. But good for you, man.
So
I could never do that.
Yeah, it'd be too hard to give up that control.
It's hard, and it just takes longer to explain it than to do it.
Yeah. Don't want to tell tales out of school, but I had a piece that I drew and I sent it away to get colored, and when I got it back, there was just way too much stuff to fix. I was like, fuck it, I'll just color it. like I should have done in the first place. I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Well. Oh well.
So, how you doing on time there, Erik?
I'll be good till the bell rings.
Okay.
Till the dinner bell rings. My wife will let me know, and I'll wrap it up seamlessly.
That's been going a good long while.
Yeah.
Sitting here deciding what to do here. I got a pillow I'm coloring. There's always stuff I can tweak is the problem with all this with nonsense. There's always something in the background that I could be like, oh, I can mess with that.
It seems like a slippery slope.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's always, and you see stuff in print, and you're like, oh, I missed that. Damn it! There's a small little coloring mistake right there. Coloring mistakes are the easiest ones. They're so invisible, and you just see it after the fact. It's like, God damn it.
Well, it probably looks different in print once you actually see it.
Yeah. All this stuff. Well, because it's got color on it, so your eye it's all filled in, and you're not really thinking about it, and then it's like, oh, that guy had a sleeve in that other panel. He's got no sleeve anymore. What the hell? Oh well.
Or you just see a chunk that was like still flatted, and it's just like, oh no, everything around it's rendered, and you're just like, oh, god damn it.
Oh well. Yeah.
Do you guys have any other follow-up questions?
I think we've gone in depth.
Yeah, this has been like meaty as hell. Love it.
Yeah.
We always find so
exciting.
much to talk about.
I'm always shocked. I'm always like, what are we gonna? And then it's 3 hours later, and it's like, holy shit.
Everyone's like, how do you do a podcast on one comic? And it's like, have you read this comic? There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot of stuff, and you start going through it, and there ends up being a lot of like little things and callbacks, and just
talking about the background, the production, behind the scenes stuff. There's always something to talk about.
Yeah, all the contributors.
Plus 250. Come on, that's a big old issue. There's a lot of crap going on there.
I think we went for what, 3.5 hours or something on that.
Yeah.
What did we do on that?
We did a 3.5 hour deep dive.
I don't know how many people lasted that long listening to it, but we had a good time talking about it.
So do you guys have information like how many people listen to this?
Not as. The data I have, we only have like 100 or so dedicated listeners, but that data doesn't include who listens to us on iTunes. So I actually don't know how many people listen to us.
Oh,
And same thing with YouTube, right?
YouTube, I actually can know how many people how many people watched it in that case, but that's still pretty not used very extensively, so not a lot of numbers there.
But honestly, it's really just a chance for the three of us to talk about it, and if you want to listen in, you can listen in, and it's an excuse to get you on to talk to our favorite funny book creator.
This is a long con.
Oh, it's awesome. I like it. I like it. I like getting a chance to. I mean, it's nobody in my house is reading Savage Dragon, so it's fine by me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, whenever I finish a
Appreciate it.
book, I get like a steak. Like, did you do just weird? Like, did you have any rituals or routines you do for putting these milestones behind you?
No, I don't. I got to get on the next one.
You deserve a steak.
I would love a steak, but I can't leave the house.
Right. I get it.
They
When
can
this
deliver it to you.
when this COVID thing's over, you deserve a steak.
Yeah, this COVID thing, man. Can we get past this? Because it's like it's been months since I've eaten out. It's been all Janie cooking, which is just fine by me.
Well, I know things are a bit worse in California.
Yeah,
Number-wise.
and we're playing it super 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 safe too, and we're just not fucking around. And so I mean, yeah, so we don't go out, and when we go for walks, it's we have a decent enough size house, and it's one of those old Victorians where it's got a sitting room, parlor, that sort of thing, so we can make like a circle.
Do laps.
Yeah, so we'll just sit there and go, okay, it's time for more laps. We'll do 10 minutes here and just do circles for a while. And so that's part of the exercise routine around here. And my wife's always trying to get me to be skinny dude, so she's loving being able to control that aspect. Because she's a skinny little thing. So
Is she
I
working?
thought you were going to say that ass.
Is she working from home, and does she typically work from home, or is this kind of new for you to have her in the house around you while you're home working?
she is retired.
Oh,
Nice.
okay, cool.
So she and before that, she was taking a bunch of classes through City College, and it's just for fun because she likes to learn stuff. So she was doing a lot of classes and going off, and then our youngest son had just gone off to college, so we were empty nesters there for a short while. And then spring came around, and the school said, well, we're going to send kids home a couple weeks early for spring break. And, parents, plan on them being back at the end of this school year. And then we were just like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm guessing this isn't going to turn out just the way they think it's going to. So we just went up there and took all his stuff home, and then it exploded, and it ended up that it's like he finished up the school year at home, and then now he's going to be starting up the school year remotely. So we'll have Joe around, and he can come up with more excellent, funny titles for me.
What was the one that he wrote when he was really young? Was it him or your older one? The hot dog? I forget.
Star Trek hot dogs for me.
Yeah.
Joe's joke. That was all actual stuff that Joe had said to me. And then I came up with a character that I used in that Madman special, which was Double Club Caveman, which I still haven't had Double Club Caveman show up yet. But yeah, the thing is that some of these strips were super easy to come up with titles for. Mm-hmm. And like Dick Tracy, I had a million titles. It's like there's so many different ones that can kind of work. And but like Doonesbury, I was like, I'm fucked. None of the characters have a name that's sounds anything like Doonesbury, and Doonesbury is somebody's last name, so it's kind of a nonsense word.
Yeah, it sounds like a town.
Yeah, so what I came up with isn't very good, but oh well. and you'll see it in print. But it's frustrating. Some of these are frustrating.
There's really never a better time to ask this. It's a weird question, but since you were like, fucking around with Popeye related things, you use public domain characters, and Popeye's public domain in the UK. Now, this has never had you tied as a Popeye guy in any way before you brought up like your plans for issue 252. Like, have you ever had a Popeye story brewing in your noggin?
Not really. Not really.
Okay. Cool. Just, I know, weird, but I have, and I was just like,
Yeah, I mean, it never was one of those like, oh, I could do this one day. That never really crossed my mind that was a possibility. So,
like with Dr. Savannah showing up, I was just thinking, I was like, I wonder if he's any other public domain names that he just has like a thought of, bringing into the fold.
Not yet. I'm trying. I mean, when I'm looking through this stuff, occasionally they'll be like, I got to use this guy at some point just because he's a cool visual. And I have, and a bunch of the guys who showed up when I first brought him over, I haven't done much with. And it's like, I should do a story with the Black Terror just because he's a cool looking character and he's kind of a Punisher type, or could be, And there's several others that were around there that are like, oh, that's just a cool visual. Joe Kubert had done some superhero that's in the public domain, and I don't even remember the name of him, but it was like, oh, that's a cool look. I should use that guy. But well, at some point, I'll get to him. I'd like to. You want to do everything.
Oh yeah.
There's just not time to do absolutely everything.
Somebody said the phrase that cursed me creatively. They said, you could do anything you want, you can't do everything you want. And I was like, God damn it. I hate the truth of that.
Yeah. Yeah, then that's true. And people will contact me about doing this or that at other companies sometimes. And it's like, yeah, I don't have time to do that. Or, I would have to give Savage Dragon a break, and do I want to take a break from the book? Not really.
Yeah, I was gonna say typically not, right?
Yeah, typically not. It's just it's more fun to do this than to do most of that other stuff. And whenever I do dip my toes in that wading pool, you're reminded of, oh yeah, that's why I stopped doing this, because it's so damn fun. And
there's an editor that won't let me do what I want.
Yeah, there's an editor, or it's got to tie in with this other thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's frustrating because in a way you go, oh, I want to do everything. I want to do all this cool stuff. There are all these characters that, oh, you never got to do your whatever the character is, And I didn't get to do a run on this book or that book. Never got to do them. What would you do if DC called you up and said, hey, we'd like you to do Commandy? It's like, shit, that would be kind of fun. But at the same time, it's like, or I could do a Commandy riff in Savage Dragon and be able to actually have it see print. That'd be cool too.
Right.
Did they ever reach out to you about that Commandy series that came out a few years back? It was like, finish the story from the guy before you type thing. I thought they would have reached out to you.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. They didn't reach out for me for that. Somebody had reached out about at one point about me doing Commandy. It was a long time ago. I don't remember what the situation was, and they were just feeling me out as somebody to do it, and I ended up deciding not to.
I feel like you kind of said your piece on that with the Savage World stuff in a
Yeah,
way.
kind of. I mean, I don't think I've really tackled anything in the way that I would tackle it if I did it as a real thing.
Yeah.
Like my Mighty Man stuff. I mean, Gary Carlson's Mighty Man is way more Captain Marvel than mine ever was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
right.
now, if I were to actually do Captain Marvel, like, all right, well, it wouldn't be like my Mighty Man. Oh,
We almost got a taste of that. I saw that page. Almost.
Yeah. Almost there. We'll see if I ever really want to tempt fate. I'll just flat out do it and publish it and then apologize. I thought he was in the public domain. Shit. God damn it. Well, he might be too. Is that I mean, his stories, a lot of them are in the public domain, and people are reprinting them all over the place. And it's like, and some people are doing like new Captain Marvel stories on their own, but they're really like really obscure fan guys, and it's like, how legit is this?
Well, it's tough because you can do Captain Marvel stories, you just can't like publicize them.
It's weird. Public domain's weird. Like Sherlock Holmes is public domain, except they'll still totally sue your ass for doing Sherlock Holmes stuff. It's bizarre.
Well, it's the difference between copyright and trademark.
Yeah, that's
trademark.
Copyright and trademark. And the thing with Captain Marvel is they don't own Captain Marvel anyway.
Right.
They don't have that name.
But they own that lightning bolt.
Huh? You can't.
No?
No.
Oh.
I've got it on Mighty Man's chest. Nobody's given.
That's true. I guess it is on Madman and Mage and all kinds of things now that I think about it.
It's such a simple thing. They can't possibly own that. So, and they can own their spin on the character, but who the hell wants that anyway?
Yeah. I mean, shitty Hood
and the lightning powers.
I'm not interested in that at all. You know, if they were like, yeah, you can do Captain Marvel, but it's got to be our shitty version, it's like, no thanks. I don't want that. That's no fun for anybody.
Man, just bad.
Not to be dick, but I have strong opinions on some of this shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
passion burns hot. That's all.
I likes what I likes. You know, yeah. I mean, I just put my list of favorite Spider-Man artists online.
Yeah, I saw that.
A couple people just like, oh, I can't believe you didn't include. And whoever
make your own list.
I can't believe you didn't put Erik Larsen on that list. I mean, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, well, I had that too. Would be like,
you didn't put yourself.
You didn't put yourself on your own list? What the hell? You know?
I would. Fuck it.
You know, you'd be on my list. Like,
unfortunately, I've never been in the top 10 of anything to know the situation. What I would do.
Just do it. Life's too short to be humble.
Yeah, but people take offense like, oh, you're insulting such and such by not including him on your list.
It's such a weird mentality.
I like what I like.
It's such a weird mentality that leaving something off is somehow an insult.
Yeah.
Like, because you're number 11, it's bad.
It's the internet, though, baby. If you're not a 10, you're a 0. Like, people either love something or they just perceive you as absolutely hating it.
Yeah. And it's, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? I don't like the same shit you like. Yeah, but, dude, come on. He was so influential. Whatever. Go fuck yourself.
But it is hilarious because it's like I have plenty of odd taste in music and stuff like that, and just because What, are you going to match it with everybody, the popular top 10? Because
Craig, what do you
it's not a
consider odd
popularity.
music?
What I listen to?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't listen to like
Spice
strictly
Girls.
like radio music. So if you said, your favorite and the Beatles weren't on my top 10, and they're not, because it's just not my favorite. But there's plenty of people that would balk at that. What do you mean the Beatles, how can they not possibly be in your top 10? It's just a matter of taste.
Yeah, well, they're in my top 10, God damn it.
I'm sure they're in a lot of people's top 10.
Yeah, but so is Einstein's sister, and you've never even heard of it.
Right.
You're
Just in the
legitimately.
pages of Savage Dragon.
I was gonna say you're legitimately the only person I've ever heard talk about Einstein's sister.
You know what that was? That was a guy who is a comic book fan who was part of that band who gave me a CD at a convention. And it was like, and usually you put those on and they're like, well, this was truly horrible. And it was one where I put it on and I was like, this is like a best of or something. And it was like, no, this is just the way it is. Every song is awesome. I was like, oh, well, I need to get more of these. And so I found whatever albums they have. And they didn't put out a lot of them. There's like three or four albums. And it's like, these are in active rotation in my household.
Did they know that you're a big fan like that?
I don't know that they know that I listen to it that goddamn much, but I do listen to them that goddamn much.
Wow.
They
That's
need to
pretty
know.
neat.
Yeah.
I don't think the band's even together anymore. But it's
Maybe
like,
not.
yeah, the ones in active, yeah. Amy Man gets played a lot in my household. Fountains of Wayne gets played a lot.
Fucking A.
Yeah. Yeah. I fucking love Fountains of Wayne.
They're great.
Did that guy just pass away recently? The Fountains of Wayne guy? Was that the guy?
Yep.
Yeah. One of the guys, he didn't sing a lot of their songs, but he wrote a lot of music.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, he also wrote a song in the new Monkees album.
Oh, nice.
I didn't even know they had one.
And it's a great song. It sounds like a Fountains of Wayne song on this Monkees album. That's cool.
Know what I'm doing right after this podcast.
Yeah, well, Google his stuff and find some of the weird shit that he's written for people. He also wrote That Thing You Do.
Nice. It's a banger.
Yeah, it's like that's a favorite movie. I love that movie.
Tom Hanks banger.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a movie that if it's like, you got to watch a movie for 24 hours in a row, I'd be like, fuck yeah, put that on. Sit there and watch that. I'll watch Groundhog Day all day long.
It's another classic. It's kind of a weird question. Just throw this out for Eric, but I'm curious what Craig and Jim have done on this too. I mean, we're getting in the weeds with like music taste and all kinds of shit, so why not just throw this out here? I fell down with COVID-19. I fell down an old comic rabbit hole that I literally never go down. I decided to finish a series that I fell off of for 15 years, and then I got back into it, and unfortunately all the books got expensive because the company that published it is just gone. They don't exist anymore. And so the books...
I know that feeling.
Well, wait till you hear where it goes. The books that were out there are literally, it's never going to come over ever again. The company doesn't exist. It's super defunct. They don't even have scans of this shit online. You can't read this any other way but to find the physical books, all right? So I'm in a terrible spot I've never been in. I start buying these damn books that were originally $9 a pop. I'm paying like $40 and $120 a piece.
Oof.
Yeah, it stung. And then I buy the most expensive one at $350.
Holy crap, my man.
Oh, dude, wait till you hear where this goes. And I guess some eagle eye saw me out there buying those books up. And
Jack the prices.
Dude, one of the last two books that I had to get, When I went just a week ago, it's 120 bucks. When I went to go like check on it now, it was $890 was the least expensive I could find.
What book are you talking about?
No one will give a shit about this. This is my Einstein sister. It's a Japanese cooking comic called Iron Walk Jan.
Oh,
Fuck.
Well, come on. I'm just saying. Nobody. That's the thing. That's why it's like so expensive. No one gives a shit about it, but the people who do, right?
I know what you're talking about.
I'm just saying. Open question.
I got one.
What's the most expensive shit you've fallen down the hole on, comics wise?
Well, something that's cost me a lot lately is I've gone back. So I got Savage Dragon versus Megaton Man when that came out, and I was not a fan of Don Simpson, and I'm absolutely like smitten with his work now. And I went back and tried to get all the Bizarre Hero stuff over this COVID stuff because I wanted new stuff to read, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go back and try it. And the Megaton Man stuff's okay, but the Bizarre Hero stuff is just, if you like Savage Dragon, it's like that. It's like this cast of characters that's built in. It's funny. It pokes fun at itself, and his art is fantastic, and his lettering's fantastic. He's just an all-around great cartoonist. But the stuff's so hard to find, and I've got them all now except for 3 issues. And I had to go to a comic store in Australia, and they're getting shipped over now to get the last 3 that I need. But COVID kind of did that to me, where I was like, I'm going to go back and that's though I say I think people with doing the same with Savage Dragon, but man, I love Don Simpson stuff, and went back and bought all the Image collected stuff, and now I see what everyone else saw, which I didn't give it a chance, and I think a lot of people didn't give it a chance, but his stuff's wild.
Yeah.
He gets pretty freaky too with the, even with like the racy type stuff. When you look at it and you're like, wow, this is kind of...
he did a porno book too.
Yeah, like Forbidden Frankenstein and White Bread Wendy or whatever.
Greg blew my mind with that shit. I was like, what?
Under a pen name.
Anton Drek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's a wild dude, and Raven and I talk because he lives in Pittsburgh. Raven, it's like, oh, we should hit him up for an interview. He sounds like pretty fun and straightforward guy, and will give a good interview and tell you as it is.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
But yeah, I that's what again, some blessings with COVID that I got back into things that I wasn't really paying attention to.
I haven't bought anything super recently. Although I just mail ordered when I was going down this comic strip thing. There is a comic book version of Tiger that came out from Charlton, and there's 6 issues, and I bought all 6 issues of that. But those are not super expensive books. My most expensive comic is Wiz #2, which cost me a cool $10,000.
Oh my god!
Whoa! I knew you'd have a good one.
Yeah, and I'm hoping my wife does not overhear this.
Where do you store that in a lockbox or something? Like,
no,
what do you do?
I've got a bunch of comics, so I got
unbagged and unboarded.
It's unbagged in a box somewhere.
It's bagged and boarded, but I mean, most of the comics that I got that when I bought them and they were already bagged and boarded, I kept them that way.
Yeah,
sure.
There's some that I let free just because, yeah, whatever. But for the most part, if I got them one way, I kept them that way. But yeah, there's different things where I start chasing down an artist rabbit hole and be like, what's all the comics that Alex Nino has worked on? I gotta find all that stuff.
Yeah.
Or Alex Toth, or I was getting a bunch of Neil Adams Batman stuff recently because it's like that they reprinted a bunch of those Neil Adams ones, and then they recolored them, and Neil came in and redrew parts of them.
Ooh.
And it's just not seamless. Let's just leave it at that.
He does look quite different than he used
Yeah,
to.
he inks like Joe Kubert now, and it's like that ink line is so different from his old ink line that he just is not able to blend this stuff seamlessly. And it'd be one thing if he was just going through and giving Batman long ears everywhere, which he did, but he also was just picking isolated faces and going, I can ink that better than I did then. And then he would give it another go. And so I've kind of been like, well, let me find these original comics, and so I can have them the way they originally were. And I also kind of like the old coloring on some of that stuff and the aesthetic of that, shitty, smelly paper and all that stuff.
Some of it's superior. Yeah. The old coloring's superior to the new stuff.
Absolutely.
I think so in a lot of cases, and a lot of it too is just the combination of the different things.
Yeah.
You look at it and your brain is doing half the work because you're filling in all the missing stuff, and then you see it colored better, and it's like, oh, I don't like the way this looks. That's not good.
I was really pleased the way they reprinted those Kirby DC collections. Was it like 10 years ago or maybe less than that, where that was on the newsprint? And I was like, oh, this actually looks good.
I was pleased with some of them.
Yeah.
There was some stuff where they were going in and where one color would meet another color, they would airbrush that.
Really?
I'm not down with that shit. I want a hard edge where one color is meeting another color.
Well, now they have these huge, this huge omnibus for Kirby New Gods, which I've seen online. I don't know. I'm sure you probably got it, Eric.
I gotta quit buying the same comic over and over again.
I know, but they keep coming out better and bigger.
I know, I get it. It's bigger, it's better, but
it's like all of a sudden Marvel has all these king size Kirby things, and the books are they weigh 200 pounds, and I can't even turn the page. But
is that what they call them, king size Kirby?
I think there's at least one book I have is called king size.
Didn't they
And
just
the
put
thing
out,
is enormous.
Didn't they just reprint 2001: A Space Odyssey or something?
No,
I'm thinking his prisoner.
That.
His prisoner comics got reprinted.
That's not that bad. No, the ones Marvel are putting out are they're doing his Thor runs, and they're just super oversized, these giant things that won't fit on anyone's bookshelf. But
also, they're actually taller. They're larger dimensions. They're
they're
treasure
really
sized.
Big. In the case of the Galactus one, some of the stories are printed bigger than the original art was.
Ew.
That's not. Well,
so they're actually blowing shit up. Some of them, I mean, it was weird kind of middle ground that they picked with that, because some of the stories were drawn twice up, so it's like those stories were printed a little bit smaller than the original art, but then some of the stories were drawn at 10 by 15, and those are a little bit bigger, so they were blowing up him, and they were blowing up a John Byrne drawn story and a John Buscema drawn story. So I was like, all right, this is kind of neat, but it's looking a little crude in some places here.
Yeah,
I can tell a little when stuff's like the different sizes. It kind of looks weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm kind of doing that myself in my own book, where there would be pages at some point which were bigger than other pages and shit. Hopefully it's not super noticeable, but I mean, I was doing twice up there for a bit, and then I've kind of choked that back, so it's not quite twice up anymore. So
just got tired of it, or was it the practicality?
Yeah, it's mostly it's just ruling out all those goddamn pages and stuff. It just became, oh, this is a pain in the ass. I'm still ruling out my own stuff, but I'm able to get 2 pages on a board instead of 1, and scanning every page had to be scanned in 4 times, and it just become a bigger nightmare than I wanted it to be. And also, just working at any size, you kind of come across different limitations with stuff. Where you go, yeah, when I'm drawing it big, I can't do a line that's thick enough at certain times. And when you reduce it down, things don't have the kind of weight that you'd like them to. Sure. Or there's just give and take at all the various sizes. So I kind of go through periods, and I did a couple issues which were totally, I was all over the place, where the original art was various sizes, and then it was all just adjusted to be the same size when I sent it to the letterer. So he didn't have to adjust things with me. But
Right.
you know, at certain points, it's like I can draw it any size. So why do I have to draw it this big? If I come up with a cover image and it doesn't look good drawn huge, maybe it'll look good drawn small. So I did, that issue that was a close-up on Maxine's face with Malcolm's fingers. That whole issue was drawn tiny. It was drawn really, really small.
Huh.
And then
Couldn't tell at all. That's weird.
Oh, that one you could tell. Put it next to another issue, you'll be like, oh yeah, because there's some stuff in there that's pretty crude. And then there's 2 issues where I was doing various sizes, and I was all over the place from twice up to really small. And that was the issue that introduced the sex dolls.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of them, and then one of the other ones was around that same time, either before or after, and it was just various sizes. Like let's see what works and let's see what doesn't work and stuff like that. And so, it was just different things. I don't remember what my last 20-up issue was. It was a while back. It was a few issues back. And then for a while, I just went back to using the regular standard art boards, but I drew every page as though it were a full bleed, and then I just shrank everything down. So there were issues in a row there where nothing was bleeding except for double page spreads. I think 248 was drawn that way. And then with 249, I'm back to ruling out my own boards again, but they're that same size, but plus a bleed, so I can do bleeds again. Anyway, I keep messing around, see what works and what doesn't, what feels good and what doesn't, and I'll inevitably change. I'll come down the road, I'll just be like, oh, I need to do it barn door size. Aerial photograph.
King size. Kirby King.
Oh, my last few issues would be all drawn with feces on mattresses.
It's a dumpling.
Those were really hard issues to read, but I got to complete my collection, so.
Yeah. It's a good thing it's bagged and boarded. Yeah.
Was there any certain inspiration for in issue, what am I looking at, 251? No, 250. Some of the layouts used like colored word balloons to help with the reading clarity. That was kind of like something I hadn't really seen anywhere.
Yeah, I had
like the web page.
The web page.
Doing it for a while now, where when characters are standing on where it's an open panel,
mm-hmm.
so it's white in the background. I've been coloring those balloons. So mostly it's been in situations where it's characters against a white background where I'll do that. And in this issue, I had planned on doing it more and then turned them white instead, just for clarity's sake.
That's kind of cool. It helps with readability.
Yeah, it can help out to isolate, like, this is this and this is that. And there are also characters generally have like their balloon color. So like whenever Malcolm talks, his balloons are always that same color.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a consistent thing, like throughout. Like anytime he talks, it's going to be that color. But whatever, when I'm doing emulating the strips here, I go by whatever their comic strips how they happen to do it. So it's changing somewhat here. In this issue, 252 will just be an aberration where it'll be like, oh, it's colored different and it looks different and everything about this is weird. What the hell, man?
Like in the middle of a trade, how that'll read.
It'll be different for sure. Well, this will be the end of a trade, so it'll be a strange ending.
Dragon fans are used to the experiments. It's cool.
Yeah, it'll seem like a backup if it's at the end almost.
It's definitely different.
I can't wait to see like what some of those new readers see, because I feel like a lot of fresh blood will be rolling onto the book with 250, and so for them 252 will be like their first big experimental book.
Oh yeah, that'll be the real like acid test. Like, are you really in it for the long haul? Because this is shit that happens again. Uh-oh.
But then we see the cover for, was it 253 is the one where is it Malcolm just like falling with all the kind of rock, kind of dust?
Oh yeah, 254 is that one.
4, yeah.
253, yeah. He's jumping.
Oh, Rogue Warrior.
And yeah, Rogue Warrior makes his first cover appearance.
How close were you to? I know a little backstory for the listeners on Twitter. I think it was Twitter or Facebook. You posted 2 different colors, colored dramatically different. One more like the flats with the yellow, and one more of just regularly colored.
The initial one where I colored it, where it's colored flat, that was sort of what I had said to Nikos. I was like, Nikos, do something kind of like this. And then he just sent it back regular full colored, and he was like, yeah, I couldn't make it work. And it's like, I'm going to try it, damn it. I'm going to give it a shot. And then I liked it, but nobody else did. So like a couple people were like, I vote for that. But it was like, it was so clear that the other version was preferred. It's like, all right, I'll go with it this time.
I'll concede defeat just this once.
Yeah. And usually I just do whatever the hell I want, and you guys can put up with it. But every now and then people get their way. The people have spoken. Especially when it's a vote thing like that. It's like, oh, you guys voted and you're going to get Trump instead of Clinton? Oh, well. Yeah, no, I know what that feels like, and it is terrible.
Oh, the harshest example you could have used. An example so bad people feel like they wound up in a bad timeline.
I know you don't like cornbread, but how is this box of broken glass instead?
It's kind of the same, right?
Well, I think we said it all. What do you guys have anything else? Raven, you got more? Or?
feel good, dudes. I don't want to drag
We
it out.
gotta
Eric,
we gotta
you've been-
save some for the next time.
Yeah, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
I'm just sitting here going, I know Janie's going to ring the dinner bell any second.
Well, we're gonna beat her this time, so
So, all
we'll have to
right.
put you through that. But as always, you always appreciate talking to you. You know, obviously, it's one of our favorite books, so to get the chance to speak to the creator is a
It was
thrill.
a pleasure. I was kind of like when 250 came out, I was like, how come they're not calling? It seems like the obvious choice. But since it was such a cliffhanger and 251 picked up on so much of it, it was like, yeah, no, you're probably right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this won't air until after 251, but it just there was so much to go over with Paul Dragon. It was such a shock that and I feel like with 250 you probably said a lot on that with a lot of the other podcasts that, you know, are celebrating the milestone. So yeah, I think it would be good for us to include 251.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't have to play like dumb. You can just talk about what you've got out
So Eric, how did you get started in comics?
there. Yeah.
Yeah, right. God, that whole thing, going through that over and over again. It's
Yeah.
like, really? So how did Image form exactly?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Good.
Really?
I'll let you go with somebody, you know, people come and they tell me, hey, you know, started reading Savage Dragon because you're constantly talking about it, and I just got annoyed and read it finally, and I love it. And I had somebody tell me that had just picked up the book that they love Savage Dragon, and this is a super young reader, and she was like, I love this. This is the greatest, like, this is the fucking best thing, and the community is awesome. And it's just great getting to interact with all you guys. And hey, man, the Savage Dragon community does appreciate like how much of your time you put out there for us, like, and interact with us and shit. It's cool.
Sure, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I will talk to you guys later.
All right. Take
Thank
care.
you, Eric.
Take it easy, Eric.
All right, guys. Good night.
Good
We
night.
actually let him get his dinner before. Well, like we got off. Like usually he's dragged off to dinner. That's so rare.
So, yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. This was the Savage FINcast, and you, of course, can always find us at savagefincast.com, where you can listen and comment on all of our episodes. You can find us on YouTube if you search Savage FINcast on YouTube, and, of course, we're on iTunes and Google Music.
And our email?
Oh, yes, our email. It's savagefincast@gmail.com. We always like to get your letters. We've been getting more lately. We really appreciate it.
We really do, folks. Thank you so much. Like, just to know you're out there, it helps.
And if we don't read your letter on the show, it's just because we didn't notice it until we were halfway through the episode, and then we forgot to do it next time.
It's usually a mistake. Like, honestly, listeners, like, Jim is always right after the thing, like, ends. He's always like, shit, I forgot that guy's email. Oh, my God. And so, like, we do appreciate it.
So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.